LoveLore Library. Chapter 139. Su-yu's death was finally officially classified as a gas explosion. What Su Haiqing received was only a pile of ashes that could not be identified. He did not doubt anything about Su-yu's death. After all, Su had always hidden himself very well. Su Haiqing always thought that his nephew was just a doctor with profound medical skills. In a place that Su Haiqing could not reach, at the Interpol headquarters, the bounty for the killer codenamed Scorpion was withdrawn overnight, and the bounty was transferred to a secret account in Huaxia on the same day. Well, this is the bounty, the first money that General Su has earned in this world, a reward of $1 million. It turned out that Su-yu's life was only worth this much money. General Su was very dissatisfied with this. Playing with the encrypted version of the communicator that was taken from Su-yu's home, Su-rui's eyes flashed again and again. Do I get more bounties by taking over the entire killer organization? Or simply join the organization instead of Su-yu, and take on tasks in the organization to earn more task gold? This is really a difficult choice. For General Su's entanglement, Su-wan only wanted to say one sentence: all the bonuses will be confiscated and confiscated. A man who doesn't give all the money to his wife is not a good man. Of course, the financial power of the family should be handed over to my wife. Su-rui naturally did not hesitate to hand over his bounty, and Xiao Yuni, who had seen his elder brother and sister-in-law on the sofa for a whole day, finally couldn't help but raise a hand weakly. Elder brother, can I speak? People who are ignored can only use this method to find a sense of existence. As soon as he heard Xiao Yuni's voice, Su-rui immediately looked up at him. Yuni, do you want money too? Su-rui didn't hate his nominal younger brother. If he really wanted money, Su-rui would never refuse. No, no. Hearing his elder brother's words, Xiao Yuni immediately waved his hand desperately. Then he raised the phone in his hand in front of Su-rui and shook it. The baby face showed a rare serious expression. Elder brother, Director Chi has called more than a dozen times, asking us to go back and finish the part, or we will be charged for breach of contract. Ah. Only then did Su-rui recall that he left a film crew. It seemed like this film crew was a huge production worth hundreds of millions, and the penalty for breach of contract wasn't small. Thinking of this, Su-rui lowered his eyes, his fingers subconsciously circling Su-wan's hair. Wife, what do you think? You have to listen to your wife's arrangements for everything. General Su, you are a proper slave to your wife. Yuni, you go back. Su-wan, who was lying on Su-rui's legs, didn't even lift her eyelids and replied without hesitation. Xiao Yuni, hey, this cute thing is being despised by my sister-in-law. She must be despised, right? As expected, it's shameful to be a third while hearing Su-wan's words. Xiao Yuni felt sad, but Su-rui on the sofa suddenly brightened his eyes. Forgive him for being full of his wife these days and forgetting the life trajectory of other people in this world. According to the mission plot that Su-rui knows, the Xiao brothers will always develop in the entertainment circle, and it is the movie that is being filmed now that will make Xiao Yuni famous overnight. In the original plot, during the shooting of this movie, the actor who played the third male lead had a serious car accident halfway through the shooting of the film and could not continue to complete the shooting. At that time, Director Chi couldn't find a suitable actor with a schedule. At this time, Xiao Qi took the initiative to recommend his brother, because Xiao Yuni happened to be the stand-in for the third male lead at that time. Originally, the famous director Chi would not notice this unknown stunt double who only showed his back in front of the camera. This time, he really had no choice but to agree to let Xiao Yuni try a few scenes. As a result, when Xiao Yuni changed his style and came out of the dressing room, all the partners on the set were shocked. This baby face, was it specially made for the third male lead of this movie? It was simply a god's restoration. Director Chi decided to replace Xiao Yuni on the spot, and Xiao Yuni, who had been a stand-in for many years, did not have stage fright in front of the camera. The two sides cooperated very happily for the first time. When this blockbuster was released at the end of the year, most of the audience went to see it because of the famous director's big production and the leading actors of the Heavenly King and Heavenly Queen. This movie, called The Chaos of the Imperial Capital, described a treacherous palace change. The first male lead, as the Crown Prince, strategized the country, and the second male lead, as the second prince, was also ruthless and cunning. However, in the end, the audience was moved by the sixth prince, who had the least number of scenes. For the first time, he was wrapped in a furry snow-white fox fur, coupled with the innocent baby face, which made people feel pity at first sight. He was the son of a palace maid and was bullied in the imperial city, but he wore a bright smile every day. Such an innocent and lovely little fresh meat, who always surrounded the Crown Prince and softly called Brother Crown Prince, quickly captured the hearts of most female audiences. However, the next plot took a sharp turn. The Eastern Palace caught fire in the middle of the night, and the Crown Prince was assassinated in the palace. When the female lead came to escort the Emperor and used a long sword to lift the assassin's mask, everyone was dumbfounded. The sixth prince, dressed in black, still had a baby face, but at this moment, his eyes were indifferent without a trace of humanity. "Brother Crown Prince, are you in pain?" It was still that soft voice, but at this moment, when it came out of his mouth, it was so cold as ice. Brothers killing each other, this was the sorrow of the royal family. Just when many people felt sorry for this character, the sixth prince gave everyone another surprise when the movie was about to end. At this time, the second prince's rebel army had already arrived at the city. He controlled all the forces of the Crown Prince. He thought that this time he could break into the imperial city in one fell swoop. But in the middle of the night, the fire was bright, and a large group of troops suddenly rushed in from all directions. The person who rushed with this group of reinforcements was not someone else, but the sixth prince, who should have been imprisoned by the Crown Prince in the imperial clan court. Under the light of the fire, the young man's face showed a serious expression for the first time. He said, "Second imperial brother, just admit defeat. From the beginning, you lost, because you don't have the heart of a king." This palace change, which had many twists and turns, finally ended with the Crown Prince successfully ascending to the throne and marrying the female lead. But when they came out of the cinema, almost all the female audience cried until their eyes were red. Poor little six. Director, screenwriter, give me back my sixth prince. It turned out that in the big ending, the second prince, who was forced into a corner, directly ordered people to capture the female lead in order to threaten the Crown Prince. And at such a critical moment of life and death, it was the sixth prince who bravely stepped forward. In the end, although he successfully rescued the female lead, the sixth prince also died tragically under the second prince's sword. At that scene, blood dyed his innocent and pure face red. The young man just looked at the person beside him seriously, smiled and raised his hand. Since he was young, he was a cold prince who was not loved by anyone. His birth was a mistake. He smiled every day, but he pretended to be strong. In fact, his heart was very closed, very lonely. And in these years, only one person really gave his family warmth, let him know the true meaning of family. That person was his brother, the Crown Prince. Finally, at the end of his life, he smiled and closed his eyes in his brother's arms. In the next life, let's still be brothers, okay? In this world, it is not only love that can make people live and die together. The imperial capital chaos made the role of the sixth prince become popular overnight. Almost all the female audiences who have seen this film can't help but complain in their own blogs and circle of friends. The female lead, this kind of creature is really annoying, isn't it? You used to be as fearless as a female King Kong. Why did you become a little white flower without the strength to trust a chicken at the critical moment? Of course, it's not your fault to be caught, but it's your fault to kill our sixth highness. The female audience's complaints are powerful, and the power of female fans is also infinite. Xiao Yuni became famous overnight, and soon became the most irresistible star in the entertainment circle with a brilliant feat. In fact, Su Rui knows best, the so-called acting skills. Do you expect him, the nominal brother, to have it? The first time he acted in a movie, he encountered this role. In fact, Xiao Yuni, who was spoiled by his brother since he was a child, said that he has always been playing himself. Okay? Brother. At this time, Xiao Yuni saw that his elder brother had been silent, and the expression on his face was strange. He couldn't help but worry and continued to say, "In fact, I can go back, I can do it alone." In fact, he was very afraid to say it, but as a good brother in China, he couldn't let his elder brother be embarrassed. Suddenly feeling that he was so sensible, Xiao Yuni really wanted to give himself 32 like Su Rui. Come on, what are you imagining again? Yuni, it's settled. I will call Director Qi, and, forget it, let's talk about it later. Su Rui wanted to remind Xiao Yuni that if something happened to the crew, he should give him a message as soon as possible. For example, the third male lead had a car accident, but Su Rui thought about it and did not mention it. If Xiao Yuni can enter the entertainment circle without him this time, that is his destiny. And if he loses these opportunities, it doesn't matter. After shooting this movie, Su Rui will not let him be a stunt double. They are not short of money now, and there will be more money in the future. He can afford to raise this younger brother. In the end, Xiao Yuni could only obediently pack his bag and leave. When they were separated at the airport, although a certain foodie always thought that there were chicken legs on the plane and the chicken legs were delicious, his eyes were still red involuntarily. From childhood to adulthood, he has never been separated from his brother. His brother was his closest person, and Xiao Yuni, who lost his parents when he was a child, in his eyes, his brother was not only a brother, but also played the role of a father and a mother, working hard to raise him. Although later he met his adoptive father and the life of the brothers was much better, in Xiao Yuni's heart, his brother's position will always be irreplaceable. Leaving the airport, looking at the plane that had just taken off in mid-air, Su Wan shook Su Rui's big hand. Don't worry, he will be fine. He should have his own way. We can't always accompany him. Entering the mission world and entering other people's lives, every agent will be more or less affected by the feelings of the original owner. The Xiao brothers depended on each other, and the deep feelings between the brothers made Su Rui unable to help but envy them. Yes, this child, in the future, will be very happy. Su Rui smiled and clenched Su Wan's palm. Let's go back. The two took a taxi back to the rented apartment. When they went upstairs, before they reached the door of the apartment, Su Rui's expression changed. The door of the apartment was opened, and now there was someone in the room. Su Wan on the side obviously felt a trace of abnormality. When she came to the door of her home, Su Wan hesitated, but still slowly opened the door. On the sofa facing the door, there was a tall and majestic figure sitting. Seeing Su Wan's face, the man's eyes narrowed, and a complex anger flashed across his face. Dad, you are here. Su Wan hadn't even entered the door when she called out in a low voice. Chapter 140. In the past few years, Su Haiqing has been struggling in the business world of D City. He has been accustomed to the deception and greed among his opponents. He has long cultivated a unique businessman temperament. At this moment, although Su Haiqing was just sitting quietly on the sofa, he still looked powerful without being angry, and his momentum was astonishing. Hearing Su Wan's call, Su Haiqing's eyes narrowed and he couldn't help but snort coldly. Humph, you still know that I am your father. Su Wan was somewhat innocent. Su Wan bit her lip. Su Rui, who had been standing behind her, heard Su Haiqing's obviously unkind tone, but his eyes narrowed and he looked at Su Haiqing coldly. Perhaps General Su's eyes were too sharp, and Su Haiqing immediately noticed it. The eyes of the two men collided. Su Haiqing, who wanted to give Su Rue a show of strength, was gradually defeated under Su Rue's very sharp eyes. This young man's aura was too strong. Su Haiqing put away his contempt for the first time and quietly observed the young man behind his daughter. He was wearing a decent casual suit at the door, and his short hair was also neat and tidy. People like Su Haiqing never look at people by their appearance, but by their bearing and behavior. Almost at the first glance of careful observation, Su Haiqing's heart was shocked. The feeling that the young man in front of him gave him was too shocking. Su Haiqing asked himself that he had also seen countless people, but like this young man, he would be defeated with just one glance, and every posture had a natural elegance and nobility. Su Haiqing had only seen such a person once from a distance, and the person he saw that time was the real young master of Sizhou City. Could it be that something went wrong somewhere? Jiang Yu clearly told him that this young man named Xiao Qi was just a stunt double from a martial arts class. You are Xiao Qi. Involuntarily, Su Haiqing frowned and asked. Su Rue raised his eyebrows and nodded casually. I am Xiao Qi, first time meeting. Hello Uncle Su. Hello. When Su Haiqing heard Su Rue's words, he was forced by Su Rue's powerful aura and subconsciously nodded at him. Of course, at this moment, Su Haiqing's first impression of Su Rue had indeed improved a lot. At least at this time, General Su's bearing was 100 times stronger than the image of a phoenix man he imagined. However, even so, he couldn't watch his daughter mess around with this person. Since you call me uncle, I will call you Little Xiao. Little Xiao, I heard from Jiang Yu that you just arrived in D City. Have you found a job? The old fox was indeed an old fox. When the two of them entered the door, Su Haiqing obviously put on a posture of questioning. Now that he saw that he couldn't suppress General Su's aura, Su Haiqing immediately changed his tactical strategy. When Su Rue heard Su Haiqing's question, the coldness on his face lessened a lot. The feeling of being picked on by his father-in-law made General Su feel pretty good. I don't want to find a job for the time being. I plan to start my own business. Start my own business. He's so young, but he's so arrogant. Su Haiqing squinted his eyes and smiled. Young people nowadays are so motivated. However, with only 200,000 startup funds, it's still very difficult to make a name for yourself in D City. This was the art of a businessman's speech. Su Haiqing knew that his two daughters had given Su Rue 100,000 yuan each, but he didn't point it out. He just said it in such a way. First, he was sarcastic that Su Rue had to rely on women to start his own business. Second, there was more probing elements. If you want money, just say a number. As long as it's a problem that money can solve, it's not a problem. Uncle Su must be joking. Hearing Su Haiqing's words, Su Rue also smiled. 200,000 yuan is not enough for me to buy a dress for my family Xiao Wan. As he said this, Su Rue couldn't help but stop Su Wan's shoulder with one hand. Regardless of her father still watching, he smiled and moved closer to Su Wan's face. Wife, am I right? Su Wan blinked at Su Rue, took out a bank card before Su Haiqing got angry and handed it to Su Haiqing. Dad, here's 70,000 yuan. You take it back and return it to Jiang Yu. We won't take the extra money. Xiao Qi has his own money. He won't use our Su family's money. Su Haiqing, who was angered by Su Rue's frivolous behavior just now, looked at Su Wan with a sullen face. Rich? How much money can he give you? Xiao Wan, you are still young. You don't know how sinister people are in this world. Xiao Qi, I see that you are also a talent. Let's not beat around the bush. What price do you want me to pay before you are willing to let my daughter go? She is still in school. She can't afford to play with you. At this time, Su Haiqing couldn't pretend to be elegant. He couldn't let the daughter he had painstakingly raised be cheated by a white-eyed wolf. Hearing Su Haiqing's words, Su Rui's gaze also turned cold. He took a slight step forward, stared at Su Haiqing's face, and his sexy lips curled up into a somewhat strange arc. I don't know, Uncle Su, what is the total value of your Su's enterprise? Hearing Su Rui's question, Su Haiqing couldn't help but suddenly stand up from the sofa. Young man, don't be greedy. The entire Su's assets are over 100 million. It's not something you can eat in one bite. So Uncle Su, you are a billionaire. Hearing Su Haiqing's words, Su Rui still showed a faint smile on his face. Since Uncle Su loves Xiao Wan so much, for her happiness, so what if you lose hundreds of millions? Or in your heart, she can't compare to your business and your wealth at all. Money or feelings, which is more important? Su Rui unconsciously switched his position with Su Haiqing. It should be said that from beginning to end, Su Rui was in control of the rhythm of this conversation. At this time, hearing Su Rui's question, Su Haiqing's expression suddenly changed. He realized that he had unknowingly fallen into this kid's language trap. If he answered that Su Wan was more important than Su Clan, then he would take the opportunity to demand an exorbitant price. And if he answered that Su Clan was more important, he would also achieve the vicious purpose of provoking the relationship between himself and his daughter. Su Haiqing, who has also experienced countless negotiations in the business world, quickly calmed down and looked at the young man in front of him. After all, he still underestimated him. Xiao Qi, it doesn't make any sense for you to sow discord like this. Xiao Wan is my daughter, and my property will also be hers in the future. Su Haiqing smiled at Su Rui and whispered. Su Haiqing, who thought he had seen the other party's true colors, was just waiting for Su Rui to state the final price, and then bargain. Unfortunately, Su Rui would never play according to the routine imagined by Su Haiqing. Uncle Su, I heard that Jiang Yu is also your daughter. Even if you leave all your assets to your two daughters, our family's Xiao Wan will only get half. What you can give her is nothing more than this, and I. Su Rui raised his eyebrows and looked at the middle-aged man in front of him with an exceptionally serious gaze for the first time. Within a year, after Xiao Wan reaches adulthood, I will use 100 Su clans as a betrothal gift. I want everyone in D City to know that in my heart, the entire Su clan is not even worth 1% of Xiao Wan. 100 Su clans were tens of billions of funds. Hearing Su Rui boasting such a big mouth, Su Haiqing instinctively wanted to refute, but at this moment, Su Rui's eyes suddenly became dark and deep. The sudden oppressive gaze made Su Haiqing swallow the words that were on the tip of his mouth. Good. 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 Since you dare to boast this big mouth, let's wait and see. In the end, Su Haiqing could only leave this harsh sentence and turn to leave with a face full of anger. Staring at his departing back, Su Wan couldn't help but turn to look at Su Rui beside her. Are you going to rob a bank? Wife, that's a crime. Su Rui couldn't help but raise his hand and rub Su Wan's hair. His wife's hair was comfortable to touch, and he personally washed it, and it was still fragrant now. Thinking of this, Su Rui's gaze couldn't help but change again. Wife, Yuni is also gone. I'll help you bathe again tonight, okay? You haven't told me what you're going to do, don't change the subject. Su Rui took the encrypted communicator that Su Yu used to contact the killer organization. Su Wan knew about this. At the same time, she also knew that Su Rui would not say something that he couldn't do. Since he said it in front of Su Haiqing today, then he would definitely be able to get the money within a year. Now Su Wan was just worried that Su Rui would use some extreme methods. It was just a task. She didn't want Su Rui to work too hard. Well, seeing Su Wan's unforgiving look, General Su had to smile mysteriously. Wife, don't worry, I have a sense of propriety in doing things. Who would rob a bank now? It's too weak, okay. General Su never thought that he was a person who relied on violence to solve problems. He was a high IQ brain worker, okay. Wife, am I such a violent person in your heart? Su Rui put on a pitiful look again and looked at Su Wan full of resentment. In any case, I also went to the research institute and was a person who did a PhD. A cultured person can't easily beat and kill. A gentleman uses his mouth and not his hands. Don't make a move. Ghost. General Su, who was numb to killing people, could say this. Su Wan was also drunk, but when she heard Su Rui mention the research institute, her eyes also flashed. Indeed, the more mission worlds they entered, the more skills the mission enforcers mastered, but the research institute that studies the zombie virus and destroys the balance of this world will be obliterated, okay? You. Su Wan still wanted to say something, but Su Rui beside her smiled and made a silent gesture at her. Wife, do you believe me? If you believe me, just leave everything to me. Okay. Su Wan nodded. She naturally believed in Su Rui. In this world, other than herself, there was only this man who could make her trust and rely on him so unreservedly. Seeing Su Wan nod, the corner of Su Rui's lips curled up again. What was the most lacking in this world? What was the most in demand? There were actually a lot of ways to accumulate a huge amount of wealth in a short period of time, and Su Rui's mind just happened to have a high-tech that was very suitable for this world. Lingshan MMORPG, another world's TX company, spent hundreds of billions to create the world's first holographic MMORPG. All the technical cores of this game existed in Su Rui's mind. Why did the future Su Rui want to develop Su Xiaosu? Why did he connect Su Xiaosu's data to the Lingshan virtual world? Technology changes life. Chapter 141. After a short weekend, Su Wan had to go back to Fengheng to go to school, and Su Rui also took a small amount of startup funds from Su Wan and planned to open a network technology studio in D City. School days are particularly boring. In the mission plot that Su Wan knows, there are not many scenes about school, but now that she has become a member of this world, she has to report to school on time every day. In fact, Su Wan initially planned to leave school to speculate on her own, but since she knew that Su Rui had become Xiao Qi, she had to change her strategy. In order not to cause unnecessary trouble for Su Rui, Su Wan felt that it was not a big deal to be a high school student for the time being. The female lead Darren Jiang Yu will still pester Su Wan every day, trying to touch her cold and heartless heart with her sisterly love. Of course, her idea is good, but unfortunately, Su Wan doesn't want to see her at all, okay? Every time she has a relationship with Jiang Yu, she will encounter a group of brainless flower protectors, which makes Su Wan annoyed. Brothers, don't you know that your family's Jiang Yu is a martial arts master? Do you think I can beat her? Every time we meet, you vicious woman, how dare you bully Jiang Yu? You're dead, to look at me, even if you don't find it annoying, I find it annoying. Su Wan. On this day, Su Wan had just sneaked back to the classroom from the physical education class to take a nap, but she was stopped in the corridor. Because the voice that stopped her sounded a bit familiar, Su Wan couldn't help but stop and look back. What appeared in front of her was a particularly elegant figure. He was not wearing the same school uniform, but a limited edition casual suit handmade by a foreign master. It seems that there is only one person who can be so arrogant in Fengheng. Ouyang Luo. Su Wan found such a wonderful person in the memory of the original owner, Principal Ouyang's grandson, Ouyang family's eldest young master, Ouyang Luo, who has always boasted of being an elegant noble son. In the entire Fengheng, he is the only one who doesn't wear a school uniform, just to show his so-called elegant demeanor. Hearing Su Wan calling his name directly, Ouyang Luo's handsome face sank. Su Wan, not everyone's name can be called by you. Who do you think you are? In the entire Fengheng, if Luo Yu was a scholarly idol that everyone worshipped collectively, then Ouyang Luo was like an unattainable emperor. He could do whatever he wanted in this school. He was the dream lover of countless girls, and everyone had to call him Young Master Luo when they saw him. He was such a young master. On the surface, he looked cold and elegant, but in reality, he was a weirdo who was extremely lacking in love. Seeing Ouyang Luo looking at her with contempt, Su Wan was speechless. Young master, should I kneel on the ground and weep bitterly, begging you to forgive us mortals for our fish lips? Who do you think you are? Towards a certain Chinibu, Su Wan decided to ignore him. Therefore, under Ouyang Luo's expression of you quickly come and admit your wrongs. After you admit your wrongs, I won't forgive you. Su Wan calmly turned around and left. Su Wan. Looking at Su Wan's departing back, Ouyang Luo clenched his fists fiercely. Originally, when he met Su Wan today, he wanted to teach her a lesson so that she wouldn't always go against Jiang Yu. He didn't expect her to dare to ignore him. Does she really think that she is the eldest miss of the Su family? Isn't she just a fake? It is true that regarding Su Wan's identity, even if the Su family has the intention to conceal it, the big families in D City have their own information channels. Since Ouyang Luo fell in love with Jiang Yu at first sight in the corridor, he immediately sent someone to investigate Jiang Yu's life experience. Then Su Wan's true life experience also surfaced. Jiang Yu is the real daughter of the Su family, and Su Wan is just the child of a village woman. After knowing about this, Ouyang Luo appreciated Jiang Yu even more, and naturally, he hated Su Wan more and more. As the real daughter of the Su family, her elder sister kept begging, and she, the fake, really dared to put on airs. What a shameless, lowly person. Such a person is not worthy to be Jiang Yu's elder sister, let alone continue to stay in the Su family. Su Wan still didn't know that Ouyang Luo had decided to help Jiang Yu expel her, the inferior person, from the Su family. Of course, even if she knew, Su Wan wouldn't care. Oh, our family's little angel Jiang Yu is so hot that everyone loves her, attracting countless talents to bow down to her. Su Wan also knew that this group of men would start to deal with her. She just waited to see the move, and she didn't want to waste her brain cells to think about the rest. A boring day slowly passed in the troublemaking and malice of various flower protectors. Because Su Wan's online studio has gradually entered the right track, Su Wan returned to the apartment alone after school in recent days, and today was no exception. Miss. As soon as she left the school gate, Su Wan saw a familiar figure. Su family's driver, Uncle Lu. Uncle Lu, you came to pick up that person from school. Uncle Lu was also an old man of the Su family. He was an honest man with a particularly good character. Uncle Lu had been responsible for picking up Su Wan since she started primary school. So when she saw Uncle Lu, Su Wan's tone was still gentle. Miss, sir told me to take you and Miss Jiang Yu back, madam, Madam misses you. Speaking of Wen Shu, Uncle Lu's expression was a little complicated. Eldest miss, madam really misses you, you should go back and see her. Since Su Yu was gone, no one had specially taken care of Wen Shu's body. Her sick and weak body would not last long. Wen Shu, Su Wan thought of the kind and gentle woman who didn't have much time left. She couldn't help but sigh. Seeing that Jiang Yu and Luo Yu had come from behind, Su Wan quickly got into the front passenger seat. Uncle Lu, I'm going back. Seeing Su Wan get in the car, Uncle Lu finally comforted her with a smile. He saw the eldest miss grow up since she was a child. Although her temper was a little bad, she has always been a good filial child, which Uncle Lu knew. At this time, Luo Yu and Jiang Yu had also walked to the door. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Su Wan getting into the car. Luo Yu's eyes were cold, and he turned to see Jiang Yu with a happy face. Luo Yu couldn't help but pull her hand. Jiang Yu, be careful. Su Wan came back to Su family today, maybe she will do something. No, Xiao Wan is finally willing to go home. Mom and Dad will be very happy to see her, and I am also very happy today. Luo Yu, I told you a long time ago, I will definitely be able to move her, right? At this time, Jiang Yu, who felt that she had exchanged her unremitting efforts for sisterly feelings, couldn't help but smile brightly at Luo Yu in front of her. Just 3 days ago, the two officially confirmed their relationship. Although Jiang Yu had always refused in the face of Luo Yu's pressure at first, but later seeing Su Wan and Xiao Qi together, Jiang Yu's previous psychological burden of taking someone else's love was no longer there, so now when she faced Luo Yu again, she couldn't help but be attracted to him. In the end, she followed her heart and chose to be with Luo Yu. Well, if something happens to you at home, remember to call me. Luo Yu has been accustomed to Jiang Yu's kind and beautiful side, and he couldn't bear to hit her, so he had to shake her little hand again, and reluctantly bid farewell to his lover. Seeing that Jiang Yu also sat in the car, Uncle Lu, who was standing next to the car, nodded respectfully to Luo Yu, then returned to the car and started the car. As soon as Su Wan got on the car, she leaned on the front passenger seat and pretended to take a nap. When the car started, she also turned on the CD in the car. Jiang Yu, who was behind her, tentatively called her a few times. Seeing that Su Wan did not respond, she could only gloomily hang her head and be silent. Melodious music reverberated in the car, which was the original owner's favorite song. It seemed that there were still people in the Su family who did not forget her existence during the time she was not around. Returning to the Su Jia villa that she hadn't seen for a long time, Su Wan opened her eyes before the car entered the courtyard. Seeing the unfamiliar car parked in the courtyard, Su Wan's gaze changed slightly. Uncle Lu, is there a guest at home? Uncle Lu then saw the cars that Su Wan was referring to. Seeing the license plate number of the car, Uncle Lu's expression also changed. Eldest miss, that's old Dr. Guo's car, it shouldn't be. Madam she. Without waiting for Uncle Lu to finish, Su Wan quickly jumped out of the car. Xiao Wan, wait for me. Jiang Yu also followed closely behind Su Wan. When the two people entered the villa, the whole villa was filled with a tense and depressing atmosphere. Su Wan quickly went up to the second floor and came to the door of Wen Shu's room. At this time, Su Haiqing was standing at the door of the room with bloodshot eyes and kept pacing. Dad, how is my mother? Xiao Wan, you're back, your mother, Su Haiqing did not feel happy about his daughter's return at this time. He thought of his beloved wife whose life and death were uncertain, and his eyes were full of sorrow. Since your cousin died in an accident, your mother's health has been getting worse day by day. I have invited old Guo, a master of traditional Chinese medicine, to come and see your mother in person. Old Guo's acupuncture is famous both at home and abroad. I hope he can wake your mother up from her coma. Just half an hour ago, Su Haiqing was still in a meeting at the company. As a result, he received a call from the family servant and the news that Wen Shu was unconscious. Learning that his beloved wife suddenly fell into a coma, he immediately drove back and directly asked someone to pick up old Guo. But until now, old Guo was still inside for treatment. Su Haiqing had no way of knowing what was going on with Wen Shu. Unconscious. Hearing Su Haiqing's words and glancing at the closed bedroom door, Su Wan couldn't help but retreat to the side, took out her mobile phone and called Su Rui. You come to me immediately, I will send you the address. After hanging up the phone, Su Wan directly sent the address of the Su family to Su Rui. Seeing Su Wan talking on the side, Jiang Yu couldn't help but look at her. Xiao Wan, who are you calling? None of your business. Su Wan glared at Jiang Yu, simply stood on the other side of the door, leaned against the wall, lowered her eyes, and stared at her feet in a daze. Su Haiqing, who has long been anxious, is not in the mood to adjust the contradiction between his two daughters. He still kept drawing circles at the bedroom door, but Jiang Yu seemed to want to open her mouth to say something, but a ringing phone interrupted her. It was Luo Yu's phone call. Obviously, Luo Yu had been worried about Jiang Yu's situation. Luo Yu. Picking up Luo Yu's phone call, Jiang Yu's mood immediately became excited. Her voice was trembling from the microphone, and Luo Yu couldn't help but ask, "Xiao Yu, what's wrong with you?" "Luo Yu, my mother, she..." Before the words were finished, Jiang Yu couldn't help but choke. "I have lost a mother, and I don't want to lose a second one. Luo Yu, what should I do, what should I do? What to do?" Cold. Su Wan, who was leaning against the wall, heard Jiang Yu's tearful phone call. She couldn't help but frown, then involuntarily raised her face and looked at Jiang Yu coldly. "If you want to make a phone call, please stay away. My mom will be fine. Why are you crying over there?" This time, Su Wan did not restrain her coldness and tone, and Luo Yu on the other end of the phone also clearly heard Su Wan's voice. Suddenly, his face sank. "Xiao Yu, don't worry, I will bring my family's private doctor over right away, Auntie will be fine." Luo Yu had hung up the phone in a hurry, and Jiang Yu clenched the phone in her hand and looked at Su Wan with a wronged face. "Xiao Wan, I am also worried about my mother, I don't know what to do." "I am not, okay, stop quarreling." Su Haiqing, who had been silent, finally couldn't bear it and said, "Your mother is still unconscious, can't you two be quiet?" "Dad, I..." Chapter 142. When Luo Yu rushed to the Su family's house with the Luo family's private doctor, old Gua had not come out yet. Because Luo Yu and Su Wan had come to the Su family several times before, the servants of the Su family did not stop Luo Yu and the people he brought. Going up to the second floor with ease, Luo Yu first nodded at Jiang Yu, motioning her not to worry, and then turned to look at Su Haiqing on the side. "Uncle Su, how is Aunt Wen?" Hearing Luo Yu's question, Su Haiqing shook his head slightly. "Old Gua has not come out yet, and I don't know the situation inside for the time being." Speaking of this, Su Haiqing couldn't help but sigh again. "Uncle Su, don't worry, old Gua is second to none, he should be able to help Aunt Wen, and I brought my grandfather's private doctor this time. If there is anything you can use, Uncle Su, you must not be polite." Luo family's 3 generations were officials. Although Luo Yu's grandfather has retired, he is also a powerful figure in D City who can cause a major earthquake by stamping his feet. His private doctor is naturally of extraordinary status, and ordinary people can't hire him even if they have money. At this time, hearing Luo Yu's words, Su Haiqing's eyes lit up, and immediately turned to look at the middle-aged man in a gray suit behind Luo Yu. Meeting Su Haiqing's gaze, the middle-aged man nodded slightly at him. "Young Master Luo," Su Haiqing wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Luo Yu with a smile. "Aunt Wen is Xiaoyu's mother and my elder. I should do these things." "Luo Yu, thank you." Jiang Yu, who had been silent on the side, heard Luo Yu's words and immediately looked at him with a moved face. "Silly girl, Aunt will be fine, you can rest assured." Luo Yu smiled at Jiang Yu, raised his hand and gently touched her hair, and Jiang Yu immediately lowered her eyes in embarrassment. For Luo Yu, Su Haiqing's thoughts are also complicated. When Su Wan and Luo Yu were together, Su Haiqing hoped that Luo Yu could be his son-in-law, so that he would have a strong backer in D City, but since Luo Yu and Su Wan broke up, he began to pursue Jiang Yu, which made Su Haiqing's head really big. These 2 children were both his daughters. Although Su Wan was not his biological daughter, he had raised them for more than 10 years and spoiled them for more than 10 years. The feelings between father and daughter had long been inseparable. Now because of a man, the two sisters became enemies, which made Su Haiqing's desire to rely on Luo family fade a lot. Especially after Wenchu's serious illness and Su Yu's accident, Su Haiqing suddenly felt that no matter how much power and wealth there was in the world, no matter how much money and no matter how much power he had, he could not buy back the life of his relatives and the health of his lover. The so-called riches and honor were but a fleeting cloud. Now Su Haiqing really doesn't have the idea of wanting to curry favor with Luo family, but seeing that Luo Yu treated Jiang Yu sincerely and did his best to work for the Su family, Su Haiqing was also gratified, but Su Haiqing subconsciously glanced at Su Wan, who had been leaning against the door with her eyes down. No one could see the expression on her face at the moment, but, creak, the sound of the door opening interrupted Su Haiqing's thoughts, and everyone at the door subconsciously raised their heads and looked at the door. An old man in a black tunic suit walked out slowly with the help of a young man. The old man's complexion was a little pale, and his forehead was full of sweat. Old Gua. Su Haiqing looked at the old man at the door with an excited and nervous face. My wife, is she awake? Hearing Su Haiqing's question, old Gua's face darkened slightly. Mr. Su, this old man has done his best, but your wife's body, alas. Old Gua sighed and his eyes fell on Su Haiqing's face. Please forgive me for being powerless. How could this be? When Su Haiqing heard old Gua's words, his face instantly turned ashen, and his tall figure involuntarily swayed twice. Resisting the disappointment in his heart, Su Haiqing took out a check from his arms with trembling hands and handed it to old Gua. Thank you for your hard work, I will send someone to drive you back. Old Gua shook his head and did not take the check. I also had a lot of dealings with the Wan family in the past. Today, this consultation fee is waived. After that, Master Gua slightly turned his head and glanced at the young man next to him. The young man was Master Gua's apprentice. Receiving his master's signal, he immediately helped Master Gua to the stairs and said, I will send my master back. Don't bother Mr. Su. Seeing the master and apprentice slowly leaving, Su Haiqing hurriedly turned around, as if grasping the last life-saving straw, and looked at Luo Yu and the doctor he brought with him. Dr. Su, sorry to trouble you. Luo Yu's mind was clear, and he naturally didn't need Su Haiqing to speak. He had already taken the initiative to give an order. When Dr. Su heard Luo Yu's words, he immediately nodded and walked into Wenshu's bedroom. There were a lot of medical equipment prepared in this bedroom, most of which were prepared by Su before, and it could be regarded as the most advanced medical equipment in the world. Looking at the unconscious patient on the bed, Dr. Su put on the medical gloves he carried with him, then picked up the equipment that had been prepared in the room and started the most basic examination. Time passed minute by minute, and waiting was always the most difficult thing to bear. Su Haiqing experienced a disappointment, and now his eyes were red with anxiety, and Jiang Yu was also gently held in Luo Yu's arms and comforted in a low voice. Su Wan still leaned alone on the edge of the bed, lowered her eyes, and looked at the watch on her wrist. Soon, it will normally take 45 minutes from Su Rui's studio to Su family's villa. Of course, if you run the red light all the way, you can save 10 minutes. Bang! Su Wan was counting the time, and the door of the villa was suddenly slammed open from the outside. Sorry, my hand slipped. Su Rui, who was still wearing the studio's blue overalls, smiled innocently at the people in the villa, and behind him were the Su family security personnel. Mr. Su, this gentleman insisted on breaking in and didn't even give the time to report. We couldn't stop him. Forget it, all go down. At this time, where would Su Haiqing have the mind to care about the door of the villa and Su Rui coming uninvited? When the security personnel outside the door heard the boss's instructions, they immediately breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts and obediently retreated. Oh my, this month's bonus was finally saved. It was the first time that Su Rui came to the Su family. Seeing the strange faces of the people in the corridor upstairs, Su-rui also put away the smile on his face and quickly walked to the second floor and went straight to Su-won. "Wife, what happened?" "Mom is in a coma and hasn't woken up yet," Su-won whispered to Su-rui in a low voice. Hearing this, Su-rui's eyes also narrowed. Although when Shu was doomed to not live long, she should never be in a coma at this time. According to the plot of the original world, when Shu had to wait until Su-won was cannon fodder before her body would deteriorate day by day and finally die in a coma. Exchanging glances with Su-won, Su-rui immediately understood Su-won's meaning. He gently pulled Su-won's hand and slightly nodded at her. All variables have a certain cause and effect, so was when Shu's sudden coma because Su-rui killed Su-yu. At this moment, the two people were not quite sure of the connection between the two things and could only wait for the good news from Dr. Su. Not long after, the bedroom door finally opened again. Dr. Su was not as tired as old Gua, but his face was also very bad. "Dr. Su, how is Aunt Wen?" Luo Yu was the first to ask. Hearing his question, Dr. Su hesitated slightly and shook his head. "Mrs. Su's condition is very bad. I have done a lot of examinations on her and found that there is an unknown toxin in her body. This toxin has spread to the blood vessels and meridians of her body. I suspect that this unknown toxin is the culprit that caused her to be in a coma, but at present, I am still helpless about this toxin. I have taken samples today and am ready to take them back for research, but," after a pause, Dr. Su's eyes slowly fell on Su Haiqing's body. "It will take at least 2 months to analyze the composition of this unknown toxin. I'm afraid Mrs. Su can't wait that long." Dr. Su said it tactfully, but in fact, like old Gua, he was currently unable to do anything about Wen Shu's physical condition. Disappointment once again, perhaps it was despair. Su Haiqing's eyes were empty at this time. At this moment, he even lost the strength to speak and didn't know what kind of expression he should have. At this time, Su-rui, who was next to Su-won, suddenly entered the bedroom in a flash. "Let me see." While speaking, Su-rui waved his hand and the bedroom door was slammed shut. Bang! The loud sound of the door closing brought Su Haiqing back to his senses from the bottom of despair. Su Haiqing's reaction was still a little slow, and Luo Yu on the side had already strode forward, wanting to push open the bedroom door. No one is allowed to go in and disturb him. At this time, Su-won suddenly raised her arm and stopped Luo Yu's figure. "Su-won, are you just going to let him mess around like this? In case something happens to Aunt Wen, can you afford it?" Being blocked by Su-won, Luo Yu couldn't help but lower his eyes and look at the person in front of him with a cold face. "She is my mother, why can't I afford it?" Su-won's eyes were also cold, and she looked at Luo Yu in front of her with an unkind expression. "Besides, this is our Su family, it's not your turn as an outsider to point fingers here." "Outsider?" Luo Yu's lips flashed a sarcastic smile. In the end, who is the outsider, who knows in their hearts? Luo Yu suddenly turned to look at Su Haiqing behind him. "Uncle Su, are you going to let these two people mess around in your Su family?" "Dad." Without waiting for Su Haiqing to speak, Su-won had already blocked the door and looked at the haggard Su Haiqing. "If you believe me, give us this chance. If you don't believe me, I will immediately take Xiaoqi away from here and never stay here for another second." Chapter 143. In Su Haiqing's memory, his daughter Su-won had been spoiled since she was a child. She had also lost her temper in front of him, but Su Haiqing had never seen such a calm and firm look in Su-won's eyes before. Looking at the closed door, Su Haiqing finally sighed. "None of us will go in, but, little Xiao, does he know medicine? There is a saying that a dead horse should be treated as a living horse. Everyone will hope for a miracle to happen in despair. At this time, Su Haiqing may also have such a mentality, medical skills. Sorry, there are 1,001 ways to kill people. General Su can do it easily. As for saving people, he will. Su Wan replied calmly, without any guilty expression on her face, but Jiang Yu on the side opened her mouth and wanted to speak, but noticed that Su Wan was staring at her with a cold expression. Jiang Yu had to gently close her mouth, but she was still worried about Shao Qi in her heart. Jiang Yu has known Shao Qi for almost 10 years. She thinks she knows Shao Qi well enough. He knows Kung Fu, can cook, and is even good at cleaning up housework and taking care of people, but medical skills are so difficult, how could Brother Shao know? Being able to help his adoptive father take care of those injured companions in the martial arts field and help them massage is already all that Shao Qi knows. No matter what mood the people outside the door were in the room, Su Rui had come to Wen Shu's hospital bed. Although Wen Shu, who was just in her early 40s, was ill for a long time, she looked like she was in her early 30s on the hospital bed because of proper maintenance and outstanding appearance. Even if she was in a coma, it was difficult to hide the elegance and nobility on her face. Su Rui looked at Wen Shu's face, and his slender and powerful fingers involuntarily rested on Wen Shu's pale and thin wrist. At the same time, Su Rui used his left hand to pull out the scalpel he took from Su Yu that day from his waist, and gently cut a wound on the tip of Wen Shu's index finger. Not long after, drops of slightly purple-red blood flowed out of Wen Shu's fingertips. Su Rui's eyes flashed, and he put all the blood in the container on the table. Unlike Dr. Su's caution, Su Rui directly dipped the blade of the scalpel in the blood and put it in front of his nose to smell it. This is, smelling the special smell in the blood. Su Rui slightly closed his eyes, the structure and smell of countless viruses and toxins constantly flashing through his mind. Finally, he suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze flashing with understanding. So, that's how it is. Su Rui couldn't help but take another look at Wen Shu on the hospital bed, and the expression on his face became a bit strange. Picking up a white towel and carelessly wiping the blood on the scalpel, Su Rui hesitated, and finally took the glass container to Wen Shu's bed again, and then pointed her bleeding finger at the opening of the container. Since it's my karma, I'll just end it. Muttering to himself in a low voice, the fingers of Su Rui's right hand fiercely hit the acupuncture point of Manjushri's heart meridian. Drops of slightly purple-red blood flowed out of Manjushri's fingertips. Not long after, it almost filled the entire container, and at this time, the room also began to fill with a faint strange smell. Yes. Wen Shu on the bed whispered softly, her long eyelashes trembled, and she slowly opened her eyes. Everything in front of her was still blurry and swaying. It took Wen Shu a moment to adapt before she realized that she was lying in a bedroom, surrounded by familiar medical equipment. She remembered that she seemed to be unconscious, and now, Wen Shu turned her face slightly and saw a strange young man standing next to the big bed. At this time, he was still holding a container full of blood in his hand. The eyes of the two people unexpectedly met. The young man's eyes were too cold and sharp, but Wen Shu did not feel afraid facing such a cold gaze. Instead, she smiled gently at Su Rui. Are you, Shao Qi? She had seen his photo and knew that he was her daughter's current lover. Wen Shu's voice was the same as her, particularly gentle and particularly kind. Just a gentle inquiry immediately made Su Rui's gaze soften. I am Shao Qi, auntie, how do you feel? I think it's very good. Wen Shu smiled at Su Rui again, her gaze falling on the container of blood. This is my blood. Yes, you were poisoned, a chronic poison. Because you didn't continue to inject it within the specified time, you suddenly fell into a coma. These toxins are actually... Before Su Rui finished speaking, Wen Shu interrupted him indifferently. I know. You know that he did it. Su Rui's gaze flashed, looking at Wen Shu with some surprise. Chapter 144. Do you know he did it? Hearing Su Rui's question, Wenshu lowered her eyes, and the expression on her face was a little complicated. Su Yu, that child, is a poor child. I know he has been, alas. Wenshu sighed and did not continue. Perhaps she felt that it was a bit strange to mention such a topic in front of her prospective son-in-law at this moment. Her husband's nephew had some kind of different desire for her. This kind of thing, a lady like Wenshu, even if she knew it in her heart, she would not say it. The reason why she told Su Rui about this today was that Wenshu felt that Su Rui seemed to have seen through the truth. Yes, this young man's eyes can really see through people's hearts. Feeling that Wenshu didn't want to mention Su Yu again, Su Rui stopped asking. He put the container full of blood on the bedside cabinet, his palms down, qi gathered in his dantian, internal energy was released from his palms, and the full container of blood was constantly evaporating at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Wenshu saw this kind of thing beyond the scope of science in front of her, she was stunned for a moment, then she noticed Su Rui's constantly pale face, and a gentle appreciation flashed in her eyes. This child not only didn't mind showing his difference in front of her, but even deliberately destroyed all the traces of the toxin Su Yu injected into her body, which was also a disguised protection for Wenshu. Of course, everything he did was not because of how important she was to him. Everything was because of Xiao Wan. He loved Xiao Wan and loved her, so he would do his best to think for her. Thinking that her daughter, who she had been worried about, finally found a good home this time, the smile on Wenshu's face became more gentle. When Su Rui finished doing everything, he raised his eyes and saw Wenshu leaning against the bed, looking at himself with a gentle face, and a shallow smile on her lips. There was no window in the room, but at this moment, Wenshu's body seemed to be shining with the sun. Su Rui began to understand a little why Su Yu, who lost his parents since childhood, had a paranoid feeling for Wenshu, and why Jiang Yu, who completely inherited Wenshu's appearance, was so popular with men. It turned out that the aura of the female lead was inherited from her mother, but Wenshu was born in a scholarly family. Her gentleness and gentleness in her bones was something that Jiang Yu, who often helped with good intentions, couldn't match. Done. Retracting his thoughts, Su Rui smiled at Wenshu. Auntie, I'll call them in. Uncle Su has been waiting anxiously outside for a long time. While speaking, Su Rui had already turned and walked towards the door of the bedroom. He gently opened the door and everyone's line of sight immediately turned towards Su Rui. Seeing that Su Rui's face was a bit pale, Su Wan immediately stepped forward and held his hand with concern. Are you okay? I'm fine. Su Rui smiled at Su Wan and looked up at Su Haiqing on the side. Uncle, Aunt has woken up. Why don't you go in and see her? What? Su Haiqing looked at Su Rui incredulously, then suddenly lifted his foot and rushed in. Passing by Su Haiqing, Su Rui directly raised his hand and closed the bedroom door. It's better if we don't disturb them at this time. Saying this, Su Rui's footsteps staggered, his entire body tilted and he directly fell into Su Wan's embrace. Su Shao-Chi. Su Wan turned pale with fright and immediately supported Su Rui. You, don't scare me. I'm just too tired. Su Rui rested his head on Su Wan's thin shoulder, and even his tone became a little weak. Wife, can you help me back to your room to rest for a while? Okay. Su Wan immediately turned around and helped Su Rui walk towards her bedroom. Jiang Yu and Luo Yu, who were left outside the door, could only continue to be silently ignored. Su Wan's bedroom was not far from Wenshu's bedroom. She struggled to help Su Rui into the bedroom. Su Wan was about to turn around and close the door when Su Rui, who was on her side, suddenly pressed over like weightlessness. As a result, the two people fell together on the furry carpet. There was not much pain on the body, but the noses of the two people hit each other heavily, which made Su-won frown in pain, but at the moment she was more concerned about Su-rue's body. Are you okay? She raised her eyes and looked at the man on top of her with concern and anxiety. As a result, drops of bright red blood fell on Su-won's face. Your nose is bleeding. Su-won struggled a bit, trying to get out of Su-rue's body, but Su-rue suddenly leaned down and hugged Su-won tightly. Wife, can you stop moving? I'll hold you for a while. Feeling the changes in a certain part of Su-rue's body, Su-won's face immediately brightened. Chapter 145. When Shu's ability to wake up from a coma was the happiest thing in the Su family today. In the evening, Su Haiching found the first chef of the Su family restaurant chain and cooked a sumptuous dinner in the villa. The long dining table was filled with 6 people. This was the most crowded and lively dinner in the Su family during this period. Su Haiching and Wen Shu lived in the 2 main seats respectively, while Su Wan and Su Rui sat on the left, and Jiang Yu and Luo Yu sat on the right. During the dinner, Wen Shu kept smiling and adding dishes to her 2 daughters. Su Haiching was also in a good mood, opened a bottle of red wine, and personally poured a glass of wine for Su Rui. Little Chi, it's really thanks to you this time. From Little Xiao to Little Chi, although they were all calling the same person, the tone and meaning were completely different. In fact, Su Rui would rather Su Haiching always call him Little Xiao. It's much better than stingy. On the other side of the table, Luo Yu saw that Su Haiching actually bypassed him and directly poured wine for Su Rui, the country bumpkin, and young Master Luo's face immediately became gloomy. Feeling Luo Yu's displeasure, Jiang Yu's eyes turned, and immediately smiled and gave Luo Yu a piece of fish. Luo Yu, try it, this dish is very delicious. Luo Yu saw Jiang Yu smile, and his mood improved a lot in an instant, but when he saw the fish she put in his bowl, he couldn't help but frown. Luo Yu doesn't eat fish, this is not a secret in Fengheng. But Jiang Yu didn't know. Wife, you should eat fish too. It's your favorite. At this time, Su Rui also smiled and gave Su Wan a piece of fish, and the bones were picked out by him. Su Wan had long been accustomed to General Su's attentiveness, but when Shu, who was sitting on the main seat, saw that Su Rui was so considerate and gentle to Su Wan, she couldn't help but smile and said softly, our family Xiao Wan has loved to eat fish since she was a child. I remember that when she was 6 years old, she accidentally got stuck by a fishbone. At that time, this girl came out of the hospital and hugged me with snot and tears. She said that when she grew up, she must find a husband who could help her pick out fish bones. I didn't expect her wish to come true so soon. Hearing Wen Shu's words, Su Haiching's gaze towards Su Rui became softer. In fact, after Su Rui rescued Wen Shu, Su Haiching had already acknowledged this son-in-law in his heart. Now he was a father-in-law looking at his son-in-law. The more he looked at him, the more pleasing he was. When Jiang Yu heard her parents praise Xiao Qi so much, she suddenly felt a little dazed for a while. Zhao Mei loved to eat fish, and Jiang Yu grew up with her adoptive mother and developed this habit. She still remembers that when she was a child, the Xiao brothers would often quietly give her the leftover fish at home to eat, and every time the bones were removed. At that time, Jiang Yu didn't feel anything. Now that she saw her big brother Xiao being so gentle and considerate to Su Wan, Jiang Yu's heart was a little complicated and difficult to explain for a while. It turned out that big brother Xiao would be so gentle and even more gentle to her than this, but she had never been aware of it. But now, he would rarely look at her in the eye. Like Jiang Yu, Luo Yu's heart was also a little strange. When Su Wan was with him before, he didn't like to eat fish, and Su Wan never ate fish with him. At that time, Luo Yu thought that she didn't eat fish like him. Unexpectedly, this may be the difference between loving and being loved. Luo Yu, who was loved by Su Wan, only saw the shortcomings of the other party, but never paid attention to what the young lady who loved him had done for him. Now, Luo Yu loves Jiang Yu, and he is willing to give everything for Jiang Yu, but Jiang Yu, who was loved by him like this, didn't notice what Luo Yu needed. In love, it's not necessarily that whoever is moved first will lose. The loser is always the one whose efforts and returns are not proportional. She may not be the one who is moved first, but after being moved, he will always be the one who pays the most. After a somewhat sullen dinner, Luo Yu said goodbye to the Su family, and Jiang Yu was also very sensible and sent him out of the door. As for General Su, Su Haiqing was impressed by his medical skills, and took the initiative to invite Su Rui to stay for a while and observe Wen Shu's body. For this request, Su Rui naturally agreed. But seeing Su Haiqing instructing the servants to clean up the guest room for him, General Su's face immediately turned cold. "Uncle, you don't have to be so troublesome." Su Rui, as always, intimately embraced Su Wan's shoulder. "I can stay in the same room with Xiao Wan. I can't sleep without her." "Su Haiqing, you really have the nerve to say this in front of me, your future father-in-law." "Well, my family's Xiao Wan will be handed over to you." Without waiting for Su Haiqing to answer, Wen Shu on the side had already smiled and agreed to Su Rui's request. "Madam." Su Haiqing looked at Wen Shu with some surprise. Wen Shu leaned over to Su Haiqing's ear and whispered a few words. Su Haiqing's expression changed several times, and then he let Wen Shu pull him upstairs. He acquiesced to Su Rui's unreasonable request. Guess what Wen Shu and Su Haiqing said? Su Rui continued to rest his chin on Su Wan's small shoulder and asked with a smile. "I can't guess." Su Wan doesn't know martial arts, and her hearing is naturally not as sharp as Su Rui's. She and Su Haiqing said. Su Rui slowly raised his face, and his lips moved to Su Wan's ear. He was about to continue speaking, but suddenly there was another annoying voice behind the two people. "Big Brother Xiao." For a while, he stared blankly at Su Wan. Then General Su saw a scene that made his heart beat faster. Su Wan, who was not tall, raised her arm and supported herself on the wall with one hand. Although her arm only reached the position of Su Rui's shoulder, Su Wan still raised her other hand in a particularly domineering manner. While hugging Su Rui's neck, she stood on tiptoe and kissed him fiercely, wall tapping and whatnot. It's definitely a killer move to show affection. Chapter 146. After returning to the Su family, Jiang Yu had insomnia for the first time. This night, as long as Jiang Yu closed her eyes, she would see the picture of Su Wan standing on tiptoe and pressing Brother Xiao to kiss, and when she opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling, Jiang Yu could see Brother Xiao suddenly turning around and pressing Su Wan into his arms and kissing her more passionately. In short, the Su couple is really the first person among the mission enforcers to successfully use the ultimate skill of showing affection to make the heroine of a world lose sleep. The next morning, Jiang Yu was woken up by the alarm clock for the first time. With 2 dark circles under her eyes, she hurriedly put on her school uniform and went out of the door. As a result, when she just walked to the door of Su Wan's room, Su Wan also opened the door. At the door, Su Wan was wearing loose pajamas and still looked sleepy. Obviously, she also just got up. Noticing the hickeys under Su Wan's collarbone, Jiang Yu's face immediately became a little embarrassed. "Wife, I'm done bathing, you should go wash up." At this time, Su Rui's voice suddenly came from the bedroom. It turned out that the two people who were tired of each other for most of the night last night were busy washing up because they got up late this morning. It was obviously a bit crowded to use the same bathroom at the same time, so Su Wan simply gave her bathroom to Su Rui. She just opened the door and planned to go out to the innermost independent bathroom on the 2nd floor to wash up. She didn't expect to see Jiang Yu at the door. "Xiao, Brother Xiao. Hearing Su Rui's voice, Jiang Yu subconsciously glanced behind Su Wan. As a result, she saw a man wearing a white bathrobe, wiping the water droplets on his hair while walking out slowly. Right now, Su Rui looked particularly sexy. His loose white bathrobe exposed his firm and charming chest. On his strong and sexy muscles, there were sparkling and translucent water droplets glimmering faintly. And the red kiss mark on his chest made people's imaginations roam. Jiang Yu only glanced at it, and her whole face turned red. You guys are busy, I'll go downstairs first. As she spoke, she had already turned around and fled. At this time, Su Wan also turned around, raised her eyebrows, and looked up and down at Su Rui. Wife, why are you looking at me? General Su was a little inexplicable by Su Wan's gaze, and a very bad feeling suddenly welled up in his heart. Su Wan took a step forward and grabbed a corner of Su Rui's bathrobe, pulling him in front of her. Her other hand took the opportunity to pinch the soft flesh on his waist. Speak, did you do it on purpose? Su Rui, that this general is innocent. Ah. Wife, why are you so observant? You even discovered that I deliberately came out to seduce the female lead. Alright, General Su admitted that he did it on purpose, but it wasn't for the female lead. He just wanted to see his wife's jealous look again. Moreover, when he thought about how his wife would take the initiative after eating the wrong thing, General Su felt that those experts who were full of nonsense were right about one thing. Being jealous is good for your health. When Shu, who had just woken up from a coma, did not go downstairs in the morning. Su Haiqing, the 24 filial good husband, naturally accompanied his wife upstairs. Therefore, only Su Wan, Su Rui, and the female lead Darren were left in the dining room on the first floor of Su's house. Jiang Yu, who had not rested well last night, had to be bitterly shown off by General Su's show of affection at the dinner table. Even when he was about to go out, Su Rui still reluctantly pulled Su Wan to him and kissed her hard. Only then did he go to work in the studio contentedly. Seeing Jiang Yu's bitter face all morning, Su Wan was really comfortable. This time, both of them were sitting in the back seat of the car. Su Wan hummed a little love song along the way. Her face was flushed with success, making Jiang Yu frown. Until they arrived at the school gate, watching Su Wan quickly get out of the car with her school bag, Jiang Yu immediately chased after her. Xiao Wan, I have something to say to you. Speak. Su Wan continued to walk forward and did not stop to wait for her. Fortunately, Jiang Yu had long been accustomed to Su Wan's cold attitude towards herself. She quickly chased after Su Wan's footsteps, biting her lip and seemed to have made a lot of mental preparations. Then she said in a low voice, Xiao Wan, you and Brother Xiao, are you serious about him? Does it have anything to do with you? This is between me and Xiao Qi. You just take care of yourself and Luo Yu. Hearing Jiang Yu's words, Su Wan's footsteps paused, and her tone was still as cold as ever. After Jiang Yu heard Su Wan mention Luo Yu's name, her face immediately became a little tangled. Xiao Wan, do you still like Luo Yu? So you deliberately got together with Brother Xiao to anger Luo Yu, isn't it? Xiao Wan, don't be like this. Brother Xiao is a good person. If you hate me and Luo Yu, you can find us to vent your anger. Don't involve innocent people. Su Wan was speechless about the female lead's divine logic, okay? Seeing Su Wan's calm face not talking, Jiang Yu thought she was right. She immediately looked at Su Wan more sincerely. Xiao Wan, we are sisters, there shouldn't be any unsolvable knot. I really got together with him after you and Luo Yu broke up. If you are unhappy because of this, I will go find Luo Yu to break up. Oh. This time, Su Wan's cold face finally had an expression. You are willing to break up with Luo Yu? Just for Xiao Qi. Su Wan's question naturally led to some reverie, but according to the meaning Jiang Yu had just expressed, wasn't that the meaning? Seeing that Su Wan had finally loosened up, Jiang Yu was more determined in her guess. She hesitated for a while, and immediately nodded vigorously. I am willing, as long as you, no need. Suddenly, a young man's clear and indifferent voice came from behind. Jiang Yu froze in place, staring at Luo Yu in the early morning sun, standing quietly beside the two people. Let's break up now. Luo Yu glanced at Jiang Yu. The pride belonging to the Luo family made him unable to tolerate his love being trampled on like this. In fact, at the dining table yesterday, Luo Yu saw Jiang Yu staring at Xiao Qi in a daze. At that time, he already had some premonitions. Today, he heard Jiang Yu's words with his own ears, and Luo Yu had to express his position at this time. Although he appreciated and liked this girl, Luo Yu had his own principles and his own pride. Luo Yu in this life did not hate Su Wan as much as he did in the original mission world, and without Su Wan's negative contrast, he did not love Jiang Yu as deeply as in the original world. So, at this moment, he said that he wanted to break up. Although he was a little uncomfortable, he did not feel heart-wrenching. Luo Yu, Jiang Yu was stunned in place, watching Luo Yu stride away step by step, as if he could no longer enter his own life in this life. At this moment, Jiang Yu's heart suddenly hurt. Only then did she realize that she had unknowingly fallen in love with Luo Yu again and again under his help and consideration. But if love and benevolence are destined to be incompatible, then... Thinking of Brother Zhao's family's help to herself, Jiang Yu hardened her heart again, and looked stubbornly at the culprit, Su Wan in front of her. Now that Luo Yu and I have broken up, you have to keep your promise and let Brother Zhao go. Seeing the female lead in front of her with a righteous and self-sacrificing expression, Su Wan couldn't help but chuckle. Jiang Yu, did you leave your IQ at home when you went out this morning? Whether you and Luo Yu break up or not, does it have anything to do with me? Xiao Qi and I are living well, but I plan to spend a lifetime with him. Finished speaking, Su Wan forcefully flung her school bag and quickly turned around to leave. Su Wan. Jiang Yu stood in place, staring at Su Wan's back, and her eyes became a little complicated. How can you do this to me? Chapter 147. The news that Luo Yu and Jiang Yu broke up quickly spread throughout Fengheng College. Of course, Luo Yu's crazy support group, which only appeared in Xiao Bai's idol drama, did not appear. With Jiang Yu's skill, who dares to trouble her? On Fengheng's forum, there were different opinions about the end of Luo Yu's love affair. Most of them speculated that Luo Yu and Jiang Yu's breakup must have something to do with Su Wan. In short, as a cannon fodder X, Su Wan had to be shot every time. Fortunately, she was not completely innocent this time. At least in Jiang Yu's heart, the culprit who caused her and Luo Yu to break up this time was Su Wan. So when school was over, Jiang Yu once again blocked Su Wan's way. This was the first time she looked at Su Wan condescendingly. Short people can't afford to be hurt. Su Wan was stopped by Jiang Yu and couldn't help but frown. What's the matter? Su Wan thought that Jiang Yu would continue to discuss Brother Zhao with her. As a result, this time Jiang Yu's style changed. She stared at Su Wan's face and asked loudly, Su Wan, now that you see that I broke up with Luo Yu, are you very happy? Su Wan, did I already said that whether you two are together or not, it has nothing to do with me. Anyway, you will be NPC in the future. What's the point of splitting up? For Jiang Yu's questioning, Su Wan couldn't help but roll her eyes. There is a state called speechlessness. Please see Su Xiaowan. Why don't you speak? Are you feeling guilty? Seeing that Su Wan didn't speak, Jiang Yu began to be aggressive again. Su Wan, what did I do wrong to you? You grew up in the Su family without worrying about food and clothing. What about me? Do you know how much I suffered with my adoptive mother? You've occupied the identity that belongs to me. Have I ever argued with you about it? There was a large group of gossipy onlookers around the classroom. At this moment, when they heard Jiang Yu's words, everyone couldn't help but whisper. Where did the word occupied come from? In fact, most people really don't know the true identity of Jiang Yu and Su Wan. Seeing that Jiang Yu finally revealed each other's identities in a blabbermouth situation, Su Wan was not surprised. In the original plot, in the face of Su Wan's repeated provocations, Jiang Yu also broke out in an unbearable situation and inadvertently revealed the true identity of the two people. Since then, Su Wan has become an inferior person that everyone looked down upon in Fengheng. She was also forced to leave Fengheng because she couldn't stand such a blow. I didn't say that you're sorry. Why are you so agitated? Su Wan finally spoke slowly. At the same time, she threw her bag on the table at the door and her sharp gaze swept across the onlookers. I think everyone seems to be more interested in our identity. In fact, you guys still don't know, right? I am not the eldest miss of the Su family. Jiang Yu is the real eldest Mississippi. I am just a child who was wrongly reported by the Su family. No, to be exact, my mother selfishly wanted her daughter to live a good life, so after I was born, she swapped me with Jiang Yu. Ah! Oh my God! Hearing Su Wan's words, the crowd immediately burst into exclamations. Is this the legendary leopard cat replacing the crown prince? Su Wan, you, seeing that Su Wan said everything, Jiang Yu's face changed. Why are you? In her heart, she always knew that Su Wan's most taboo was her identity, but now Su Wan actually admitted her identity in front of everyone. What's going on? Jiang Yu was stunned and looked at Su Wan incredulously. Jiang Yu, I told you not to use your IQ, but your eyes look at others. In your eyes, it's just a trivial matter that's not worth mentioning. I don't care about the identity of the Su family's daughter. I don't care whether you are with Luo Yu or with others. It has always been your wishful thinking that interferes with my life. Now I warn you one last time. Don't harass me anymore, and don't harass Shao Qi. He won't be as easy to talk to as me. As she spoke, Su Wan elegantly picked up her school bag and put it on her back, and walked into the crowd. Excuse me, make way. When the onlookers around heard Su Wan's words, they immediately consciously gave Su Wan a way out, but in the end, there was still a tall figure blocking Su Wan's way. Su Wan raised her head in surprise, and as a result, she met Luo Yu's handsome face. What's the matter? She frowned and looked at the boy in front of her, and her tone was as cold as ever. I'm driving today, I'll take you back. Luo Yu also spoke coldly, but as he spoke, he had already grabbed Su Wan's school bag with his height advantage and carried it in his hand. Then, regardless of whether Su Wan agreed or not, Luo Yu turned around and strode away. Su Wan, it's not right for you to be so arrogant. Su Wan can only give a bad comment for the male lead's overbearing CEO-like actions. However, when she thought that she really didn't want to go back in the same car with Jiang Yu, Su Wan finally quickly caught up with Luo Yu's footsteps. The two people left side by side, one tall and one short, two figures, but they looked more harmonious than before. Without the excitement to watch, the people in the corridor gradually dispersed. Jiang Yu was still standing at the door of the classroom looking at the empty corridor, and the picture of Luo Yu and Su Wan leaving side by side kept flashing in her heart. Sure enough, Su Wan still cares about Luo Yu. Everything she did was to make Luo Yu change his mind. Jiang Yu bit her lips tightly, and unknowingly, her vermilion lips had oozed bright red blood. Shao Yu, it's not worth it for a man like Luo Yu. Ouyang Luo's voice suddenly sounded behind her. Today, Ouyang Dashao was wearing a set of beige casual clothes. At this time, he was posing, leaning against the window behind Jiang Yu, looking at Jiang Yu affectionately and distressed. I'm fine. Hearing Ouyang Luo's voice, Jiang Yu immediately wiped the blood on her lips, turned her head, and smiled at him with a forced smile. Jiang Yu didn't know that Ouyang Luo had already fallen in love at first sight for a long time. She only really knew Ouyang Luo a week ago. At that time, Ouyang Luo was suffering from Chinibu, and he was alone on the school rooftop. As a result, he was met by Jiang Yu, who went upstairs to clean up. Ouyang Luo, who did not wear a school uniform, was regarded as an outsider by Jiang Yu, and seeing him wandering on the rooftop, Jiang Yu thought he was going to commit suicide, so she immediately used her vigorous skills to save the delinquent teenager. Well, to be precise, it was because of Jiang Yu's sudden appearance that Ouyang Luo almost lost his footing and fell downstairs. But in the face of Jiang Yu's caring eyes and those sincere words of comfort, Ouyang Luo's little heart, which had a good impression of her, was immediately conquered by the little angel in front of him. He felt that Jiang Yu was sent by God to save him. It must be so. When he was sure that he had been moved, Ouyang Luo, who was planning to conquer his sweetheart with his demonic and domineering charm, inadvertently saw Luo Yu and Jiang Yu holding hands on the campus. It turned out that the goddess was already taken, and the glass heart of a Chinibu immediately broke into pieces. Ouyang Luo felt that he was lovelorn, and the pain of lovelorn made him forget his original plan to deal with Su Wan. Today, Ouyang Luo, who was bored and wandering in the school forum, suddenly saw the news that Luo Yu and Jiang Yu broke up. His first feeling was not ecstasy, but anger. Our family's Jiang Yu little angel is so kind and cute, Luo Yu dared to betray her. It's really unforgivable. Unforgivable, achoo. The unforgivable scumbag had sneezed at this time and came to his car. Luo Yu's car was a very low-key Audi. After all, unlike government officials and businessmen, their Luo family has always been low-key. Sit down. After Luo Yu unlocked the car, he went directly to the other side of the car, opened the front passenger's door, and raised his hand and threw Su Wan's school bag into the car. Su Wan raised her eyes and glanced at Luo Yu. When we were together before, I didn't see you open the door for me so attentively. Hearing Su Wan's teasing words, Luo Yu's face turned serious. Indeed, I didn't take too much into account your feelings before. Su Wan, I owe you an apology. Oh. Su Wan raised an eyebrow at Luo Yu. You won't be like Jiang Yu, that retard, thinking that I really want to get back together with you, right? Hearing Su Wan's words, Luo Yu couldn't help but smile. Su Wan, I think I really know you today. In fact, Luo Yu was also absent-minded today. He was thinking about himself and Jiang Yu all day long. Even after school in the evening, he involuntarily walked to the door of her classroom. Because of this, Luo Yu heard and saw the confrontation between Jiang Yu and Su Wan. At that moment, somehow, Luo Yu's mind suddenly became clear. What does he like about Jiang Yu? Kindness and innocence? Or pure enthusiasm? In fact, Luo Yu noticed Jiang Yu at first, not because of her beauty, nor because of her excellent skills and righteous character, but at that time, Su Wan often said that Jiang Yu was wrong in front of him, and Luo Yu naturally put Su Wan's words on Jiang Yu. As a result, he found that the girl was much better than what Su Wan said. It was also from that time that Luo Yu began to notice Jiang Yu, watching her greet Su Wan with a smile again and again, and after being thwarted again and again, her face was full of smiles. That smile made Luo Yu feel excited. But today, when he saw Jiang Yu chasing after Su Wan and questioning her, his heart suddenly faded a lot. In fact, what's the difference between Jiang Yu and other girls? She is just an ordinary girl. If there is a difference, she is also beautiful, and she also has good kung fu, but that's all. Luo Yu remembered the girls he had known since he was a child, and the girls he had dated, they were not worse than Jiang Yu. No one is perfect, everyone in this world will have their own personality, their own shortcomings. Just like Su Wan. She used to be full of shortcomings in his eyes, but in fact, as long as you carefully explore her, you can still find her excellent side. As a top student, Luo Yu's way of looking at and solving problems is also very fast. Thinking of Su Wan's silent accommodations to himself in the past, Luo Yu felt that he owed her an apology, and she could afford the sentence. As for looking back, Luo Yu didn't think about getting back together with Su Wan, because now his heart couldn't completely tell Jiang Yu to let go, and he also understood that he had no feelings for Su Wan for a long time. He took the initiative to send her off today, just for that apology. Chapter 148. Su Wan's life experience was finally no longer a secret in Fengheng, and Ouyang Luo, who originally planned to use her identity to attack her, could only temporarily stop, waiting for the next opportunity to embarrass Su Wan. Since Luo Yu sent Su Wan home that day, the news of Luo Yu and Su Wan's old love has naturally begun to spread silently in the school. Unfortunately, since then, the two people have no intersection. Luo Yu concentrated on preparing for the college entrance examination, and Su Wan began to concentrate on her studies without Jiang Yu's harassment. In a blink of an eye, it was the annual Christmas. Fengheng has the habit of holding a masquerade party every year on a carnival night, and the whole school's teachers and students will attend this dance. In fact, Su Wan had no interest in this kind of dance, but Su Rui's studio's game has entered the most important testing stage, so he can't accompany Su Wan for Christmas. Under boredom, Su Wan had to order a witch's robe in a special shop, and went to the school's banquet hall with little interest, ready to watch the beginning of the teacher-student relationship between the female lead and Wen Wenhao. As Su Wan knows, Jiang Yu has been preparing for this dance. During this period, she has gradually come out of her relationship with Luo Yu. In fact, Jiang Yu also thought of looking for her childhood sweetheart, Brother Xiao, to expose Su Wan's true face in front of him. Unfortunately, how could General Su give her this opportunity? Although Su Rui also lived in the Su family during this period, Jiang Yu didn't even have a chance to talk to him alone. After a long time, Jiang Yu saw that Su Rui really didn't like her, so she could only put this matter in the bottom of her heart. For tonight's masquerade party, Jiang Yu chose Snow White's blue princess dress, with her slim figure, white skin, and snow-like black hair. It really has a dreamlike feeling. Everyone tonight wore masks to hide their true identity. Jiang Yu's face was wearing a half-face mask embroidered with white flowers and lace edges. Coupled with the snow-white style, she immediately became the focus of the crowd. In contrast, Su Wan wore a black witch's robe and a dark golden full-face mask covered with strange lines on her face. Her whole body was wrapped in darkness, revealing only a pair of cold eyes and a gorgeous red lips. This style is comparable to those unconventional vampires at the ball, but such a strange style is considered a minority. After all, they are all 17 or 18 years old. Which girl doesn't want to be beautiful? Which girl doesn't yearn for love? In the banquet hall, there were dancing princes and knights everywhere, as well as beautiful princesses and elves. Dancing was Jiang Yu's weakness, so although people kept inviting her to dance all night, she finally refused them, until a man wearing a silver-white priest robe came to her. She didn't know what he said to Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu hesitated for a moment, then slowly entered the dance floor with him. Su Wan knew that the person wearing priest attire was Wen Wenhao. The so-called refined scum probably referred to this kind of person. "Can I sit here?" A weak female voice suddenly sounded beside Su Wan. Su Wan slightly turned her head and saw a girl wearing a silver-gray mask and a gray dress standing beside her. "There is no one here, Cinderella." Su Wan saw that the other party's coarse cloth dress was a bit familiar, as if it was what Cinderella wore at the beginning of the fairy tale. When she heard Su Wan's words, the girl smiled slightly. "I have to be Cinderella, the one who dances with the prince on the dance floor, wearing crystal shoes." I am just Cinderella's sister. Without Cinderella's good luck, Cinderella's sister was jealous of Cinderella, who was loved by the prince. She had no magic, no crystal shoes. Everyone only remembered that Cinderella was bullied by her stepmother and sister at the beginning, but no one cared about how her sister lived after Cinderella and the prince were happy. Compared with Cinderella, who was favored by God and favored by the prince, her sister could only be regarded as cannon fodder. Cinderella's sister. When Soo-won heard the other party's words, she immediately sat up straight and looked at the girl sitting opposite her with great interest. I have a magic mirror. Do you want me to ask the magic mirror who will be your fated lover? Fated lover. When the girl heard Soo-won's words, her gaze absent-mindedly stared at a certain place in the banquet hall for a while. After a while, she came back to her senses, smiled and shook her head at Soo-won. Doesn't your magic mirror only tell you who is the most beautiful person in the world? When did it upgrade to a new version? It has many uses. When you appeared, it already told me who you are. Soo-won slightly leaned her body. That pair of pitch-black eyes under the strange mask looked particularly charming. You know who I am. Hearing Soo-won's words, the girl who claimed to be Cinderella's sister also seemed to be interested, looking at Soo-won with some faint expectation. In fact, she didn't believe that Soo-won could recognize her, because at this moment, she was the other self that she carefully hid on ordinary days. You are Soo-nuo. Soo-won smiled at the girl opposite her and called out her name in a low voice. Soo-nuo stiffened on the sofa and stared blankly at Soo-won's eyes. You. How did you know? I guessed. Soo-won smiled at Soo-nuo. In fact, she really didn't know that she was Soo-nuo at first, but when Soo-nuo was in a daze just now, Soo-won noticed that she had been staring in a certain direction, and that direction was very remote, with only a lonely figure. The man was wearing a black night-night outfit, and his whole face was covered by a mask. He stood alone outside the crowd. Perhaps his aura was too strong, but no one dared to come forward and greet him easily. That night, he was Luo Yu. And the girl who could recognize Luo Yu at a glance, who could silently pay attention to him, and who could claim to be Cinderella's sister, Soo-won could only think of Soo-nuo. In fact, Soo-nuo had always been secretly in love with Luo Yu, but she was a girl who was very good at hiding her thoughts. These were not mentioned in the world plot that Soo-won knew, which showed how perfect Soo-nuo usually hid. However, when you love someone and care about someone, the way you look at him will be different. You will involuntarily pay attention to his every move, even a slight blink. Therefore, some of Soo-nuo's attention to Luo Yu was finally discovered by Soo-won by accident. Soo-nuo, whose identity was guessed by Soo-won, was stunned for a while, and finally smiled with relief. Soo-won, you are really different from before. Before. I hated you a little, but now I really like you a little. Soo-nuo suddenly stood up, raised her arm and pulled Soo-won up from the sofa. Your Excellency, which, I don't know if I can have the honor to ask you for a dance. Soo-won looked at her right hand that was grabbed by Soo-nuo. Can I still refuse? Cinderella's sister. He. Soo-nuo stuck out her tongue slightly, and then pulled Soo-won into the center of the dance floor. At this time, there were a lot of people dancing. Soo-won also noticed that Jiang Yu and Wen Wenhao were still dancing. The two people were very close. Wen Wenhao was almost hugging Jiang Yu and dancing. It seemed that he was teaching her to dance very carefully. In fact, the posture of the two people at this time was already extremely ambiguous. Seeing that Soo-won had been carelessly looking around, Soo-nuo opened her mouth and was about to say something to Soo-won. Suddenly, her back was pushed by someone, and Soo-nuo immediately fell out of the dance floor. This change came suddenly. Soo-won just wanted to reach out and hold Soo-nuo, but her wrist was already tightly held by a big hand. Don't move, you are now this marquis prey. A messy silver hair, a dark and elegant tuxedo. Su-won raised her eyes and saw a dark red mask. The owner of the mask was smiling at Su-won at the moment, revealing two sharp teeth that belonged to a vampire. "Why are you here?" Su-won's tone was full of surprise. She recognized the handsome vampire in front of her at a glance. It was her family's General Su. "Wife, you recognized me at a glance. It's great." When Su-rui saw that Su-won recognized him, he immediately grabbed Su-won's hand and brought her into his arms. "I wanted to give you a surprise, let's dance together." Dancing with Su-rui was definitely a physical work. Su-won had already experienced this, so she turned her eyes and immediately thought of an excuse. "Wait a minute, I'll go see Su-nuo first." "No need." Su-rui forcibly pressed Su-won's arms so that she couldn't turn around and leave. "I just saw the boss," and directly pushed her into Luo-yu's arms. "And, no one needs to thank me, please call me Lei Feng." Chapter 149. The atmosphere of the carnival night was just right, and the constantly flashing lights of the auditorium were dazzling. Su-rui held Su-won's arm, and the two started to dance slowly on the edge of the dance floor. Slowly, Su-rui began to take Su-won to the center of the dance floor, and soon after, the two people turned to Wenhao and Jiangyu. At this time, Jiangyu has mastered the most basic footwork under Wenhao's gentle and careful teaching. The two people just had some tacit understanding, and they were staring at each other with gentle eyes. It seemed that the atmosphere was romantic. "Wife, give them something exciting." Su-rui turned his face sideways, his lips leaned against Su-won's witch hat, and his long fangs bit the brim of her hat twice. Naughty Su-won couldn't help but smile slyly at Su-won. In the next second, she had already made a gorgeous turn. When she turned to Jiangyu's side, the high-heeled shoes under her feet immediately stepped on the snow-white dress at an accurate angle. The quality of the dress in the specialized store was naturally guaranteed. The kind of situation where the dress was torn apart with one step did not happen, but because Su-won used all her strength in this foot, and she had already aimed at the angle before she stepped down. As a result, under her foot, the princess dress on Jiangyu's body, which was originally designed as a shoulder, immediately fell off, revealing the white underwear inside. Ah! The accident came too suddenly. The moment she realized that she was exposed, Jiangyu immediately screamed. When Wenhao's eyes flashed in front of her. Because he didn't wear glasses, Wenhao only saw a flash of black in the crowd, and did not catch the culprit who deliberately teased Jiangyu. At this time, Jiangyu's scream had attracted the attention of the people around her. When Wenhao decisively took off his priest robe, and the whole robe just wrapped around Jiangyu's body. "It's okay, don't be afraid." When Wenhao was only wearing a thin white shirt. He bent down and held Jiangyu's whole body in his arms. "I'll take you away first." At this time, Jiangyu still looked panicked. Seeing the gentle and intimate eyes under Wenhao's mask, she immediately subconsciously buried her face in his warm chest. This person's embrace was very warm, and it made her feel especially at ease, looking at Wenhao holding Jiangyu and leaving the dance floor. Looking at the man's back, Su-rui pulled the corner of his mouth and whispered in the crowd, "Hey, I recognize that shirt, isn't that Teacher Wen?" Wenhao was also a relatively famous teacher in Fengheng. He was young and handsome, and just by looking at his clothes, one could tell that he had an extraordinary background. Wenhao wore white shirts the longest, and he only wore one brand. Hearing Su-rui's voice, the people on the dance floor couldn't help but turn their eyes to the gate. At this time, Wenhao had already walked to the gate with Jiangyu in his arms. Naturally, he couldn't hear the whispers behind. "Who is dancing with Teacher Wen?" "I don't know. She didn't even bring her skirt. Is she planning to go topless?" Someone in the crowd couldn't help but make some malicious guesses, which immediately ignited the fire of gossip. Could the person with Wenhao be a teacher? Or a female student? TSK. It seems that there has never been a teacher-student relationship in Fengheng. It must be known that these students in Fengheng are either rich or noble. They have high standards and strict family education. Even if some playboys are very happy playing outside, even if they don't give Principal Ouyang face in school, for the sake of their parents' face, they always have to pretend to be good students. In this school where all the second generation of officials and rich second generation of D city are gathered, if you really have any scandal, you will really be famous in the whole city. While everyone was discussing and guessing, Su Rui had slipped out of the side door of the auditorium with Su Wan. The night wind outside was bitterly cold. Su Wan subconsciously tightened the robe on her body. The next second, Su Rui had hugged her tightly from behind. "Wife, let's go home." Su Wan nodded. The home Su Rui mentioned was not Su family, but the small apartment they used to rent near the school. Everything in the apartment was still the same as before she left. Su Wan hired hourly workers to come over and do a simple cleaning at noon every day. Opening the door of the apartment, a warm air rushed to her face. Su Wan raised her hand to turn on the light at the door, but was stopped by Su Rui. "Don't turn on the light." Su Rui pressed Su Wan against the door and kissed her face. "Xiao Wan, guess what Wenhao and Jiang Yu are doing?" "How would I know?" Su Wan said as she raised her hand and pulled out the two fangs that had been messing with her face in Su Rui's mouth. "Why don't we observe Teacher Wen's skills?" Su Rui suddenly took out a small receiver from his arms and shook it in front of Su Wan. "I just seem to have accidentally glued the newly developed miniature camera in the company to Jiang Yu's hair." "Your mother, is there such a careless thing?" "It's clearly intentional." Su Wan raised her eyes and looked at the receiver in Su Rui's hand seriously. "You seem to be very interested in Jiang Yu." "Wife, I..." Just as Su Rui was about to explain, Su Wan had quickly grabbed the receiver in his hand. "It just so happens that I am also very curious about Wenhao's skills. It is said that this person's equipment is big, lively, good, and extraordinary. He can take care of Jiang Yu in one go." Cough. It's understandable that some guys with inferior skills are eager to observe him. "Wife, I was wrong. It's immoral to peek at others." Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui's face immediately darkened. "Wife, what's so good about Wenhao? Does he have an 8-pack? Does he have a fishing line? Is he as handsome as me?" "Wife, you turn on the light, how about I let you look?" General Su was very regretful at the moment. How could he forget that Wenhao, that gigolo, was one of the most ferocious men in the world? Your mother, looking at such a weak and scholarly gigolo, but he had sex 7 times in one night. General Su thought that this was absolutely unscientific, okay? Of course, if his skills were good, he could definitely kill this gigolo in seconds. Just as Su Rui was distracted, Su Wan had already turned on the light and connected the high-tech receiver directly to her smartphone, and then the screen immediately appeared in the mobile phone player. "This new product is really great, the reception is fast, the effect is HD, and even the sound is available." Su Wan raised her eyebrows and raised the volume of the mobile phone, and Jiang Yu's slightly gasping voice immediately came from it. "No, you can't do this, you quickly let me go." In the picture, Jiang Yu has been pressed against the corner of the living room by Wenhao. From the perspective of the camera, both of them were still wearing masks at this time, and the priest robe on Jiang Yu's body had been scattered on the ground. Because the camera was in Jiang Yu's hair, Jiang Yu's figure couldn't be seen at all, but her slender arms could be clearly seen when she struggled. At this time, Jiang Yu had torn off the mask on Wenhao's face because of her intense struggle. In an instant, Jiang Yu immediately froze there. "Wen, Teacher Wen." Her voice was trembling. Jiang Yu. When Wenhao narrowed his eyes and slowly approached Jiang Yu's face, I've liked you for a long time. As one of the many pursuers of the female lead in this world, Wenhao is undoubtedly the most special one. This handsome guy with a gentle appearance is actually very keen on a certain kind of bed sport. The so-called beast in human clothing is precisely the color red and purple. When Wenhao first entered Fengheng, he actually took a fancy to Jiang Yu at a glance. Later, he found out that Jiang Yu knew martial arts, and her body's flexibility was also very good, which aroused Wenhao's heart to conquer. He approached quietly, wanting to make Jiang Yu fall in love with him unknowingly, but today, a man and a woman were alone. Especially when he saw the tempting beauty in front of him, Wenhao's heart was already like a monkey and he couldn't control it. In the face of Wenhao's sudden confession, Jiang Yu was stunned. While she was in a daze, Wenhao had already held the back of Jiang Yu's head with one hand and kissed her lips fiercely. His skillful skills immediately defeated Jiang Yu, who knew nothing about love affairs. The battle between the two quickly escalated. Seeing that when Wenhao began to undress, Su Rui on the side couldn't stand it anymore. He snatched the mobile phone in Su Wan's hand and stared at her with a heavy gaze. "Wife, you are not allowed to look at him, you can only look at me." Su Wan held back her laughter and nodded with a serious face. "I'll just look at you, okay? Don't turn off your mobile phone, help me copy this wonderful video, and give it to Jiang Yu later, so that she can keep it as a memento." Keep it as a memento or something. Su Rui's eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but smile at Su Wan. His wife knew him best in this world. She even guessed that he was planning to castrate Wenhao. Chapter 150. After the carnival night, Fengheng took 3 days off as usual. Su Wan returned to the Su house with Su Rui at noon the next day. When she entered the door, she saw Su Haiqing, who was rarely free, accompanying Wen Shu to eat. Wen Shu's complexion was much better, but Su Rui had already told her that even if the remaining poison in her body was expelled, according to her current physical condition, she only had 2 years of life left at most. Wen Shu, who knew that she would not live long, did not seem particularly depressed. Now she cherished her time with her loved ones more. "Xiao Wan, Xiao Qi, you're back. Come over to eat." Wen Shu smiled and waved to the two people. Su Wan also smiled at her. "Mom, Xiao Qi and I have eaten outside. You guys eat slowly." "Right." Su Wan looked at the empty seats in the dining room. "Has Jiang Yu not come back yet? It's rare that you still care about your sister." Su Haiqing slowly put down his chopsticks and glanced at Su Wan. "Yesterday, your class teacher called and said that she would take Xiao Yu to participate in an academic activity these days. Xiao Wan, you really should learn more from your sister. Of course, Mom and Dad don't expect you to be in the top 3, as long as you don't always wander in the bottom." Su Wan, although the original owner's appearance was a school belle, her grades could only be a joke. In contrast, Jiang Yu, who transferred to another school and worked hard, got the first place in the class in the final exam of last semester. Therefore, it was obvious that the Su family's husband and wife did not have any doubts about Wen Qinshuo's lies. They were really relieved to hand over their daughter to him. "Got it, I will also work hard to get into the top 3 this semester." Leaving this sentence, Su Wan pulled Su Rui upstairs quickly. In fact, it was not a delusion for her to get the first place in the whole year, but Su Wan didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. After the new year, the person she had been waiting for should appear, Jing Lai, the leader of the Inferno gang in D City. In the original plot, Jing Lai was saved by Jiang Yu, and the two were also very passionate. Compared with Wenhao's sentimentality, Jing Lai was much more infatuated, and it was precisely this infatuated boss who was particularly crazy and cool. As long as it was someone who was not good to Jiang Yu, he would clean them up. The original owner, Jiang Yu, was just one of the cannon fodder that Jing Lai had cleaned up. It was rare for Su Rui to rest for a day. Naturally, he accompanied his wife. The next day, when Su Rui went to work with a refreshed face, he saw Jiang Yu waiting for a long time at the door of his company. Big brother Xiao. Catching a glimpse of Su Rui's figure, Jiang Yu immediately stood up and called him. Before she said anything, her eyes were red. Jiang Yu felt that she was living in a dream these 2 days. First, she broke up with Luo Yu, and then with teacher Wen. She ran out of Wen Wenhao's house and wandered on strange streets. Jiang Yu suddenly began to miss the small county town in her hometown and her childhood playmate. She subconsciously wanted to call Xiao Qi, but unfortunately, her number had already been blacklisted by Su Rui. Fortunately, Jiang Yu still had Xiao Yuni's number. She called directly to the set. Xiao Yuni, who was filming, had actually been in contact with his brother. He was a very simple person. Seeing that Jiang Yu wanted his brother's work address, he sent the address to Jiang Yu's mobile phone without thinking. As a result, Su Rui was met by Jiang Yu. Su Rui felt a headache when he saw Jiang Yu. This female lead Darren couldn't be killed. Even if he beat her, he would feel that he was degrading himself. It was endless to be entangled by her. In the past, when General Su first came into contact with TV and computers, he felt that the female protagonists in those melodramatic TV dramas were as tenacious as cockroaches. After meeting Jiang Yu, General Su finally understood that there was always someone better than you, big brother Xiao. Seeing that Su Rui ignored her, Jiang Yu called out again in a low voice, and tears were already swirling in her eyes. Without Luo Yu's careful care, the first person Jiang Yu thought of when something happened was Xiao Qi. Those memories of her youth are now like her life-saving straw. She even feels that even if the whole world abandons her, big brother Xiao will not. In fact, Xiao Qi is indeed the most affectionate supporting actor in the world. He has been silently guarding Jiang Yu for many years. Unfortunately, Jiang Yu does not understand this kind of feeling, and does not know how to cherish this man. After she entered Fengheng, she was gradually attracted by Luo Yu's strength. After being with Luo Yu, Jiang Yu began to entangle with Luo Yu's best friend, Wen Wenhao, because of her rotten kindness. Later, she was eaten up by Wen Wenhao. In fact, what is the so-called love? The young and soft-hearted Jiang Yu has a strong martial force, but when it comes to love, she has always been indecisive and wavering. In the face of all kinds of men's advances, she will not refuse. She thinks that she doesn't want to hurt others, but in fact, she just keeps releasing ambiguous signals to others that they can continue. A woman's indecisiveness is equivalent to a man's womanizing. In the original world, Luo Yu was Jiang Yu's first man, and he was also responsible for her. Luo Yu had always been with Jiang Yu until he discovered the unclear relationship between Jiang Yu and Wen Wenhao. At that time, Luo Yu loved Jiang Yu deeply. Although he also wanted to break up, later, true love overcame everything, this kind of feeling, because I love you, even if you love me, you still love others, I don't mind. Please forgive General Su for his inability to understand, I love you, and you happen to love me. We love each other deeply and regard each other as the only one. Su Rui felt that if there is a definition of true love, it should probably be like this. So for those who can NPC with other men because of true love, and because of true love, they accept that their man has countless women, these people in Su Rui's view belong to the group of people who are seriously retarded and have long given up treatment. And at this moment, Su Rui was standing in front of such a person. Didn't you go out with teacher Wen? Su Rui saw Jiang Yu was about to cry at any time, and couldn't help but look at her knowingly. You came back by yourself. Why didn't you go home? Big brother Xiao. As soon as she heard Su Rui mention Wen Wenhao, Jiang Yu's face immediately changed. The scenes of last night were still very clear in her mind. She really didn't want to, but she still had sex with Wenhao after half a push. Now, Jiangyu doesn't know how to talk to Xiao Qi about this matter. It's too difficult to talk about it, but she felt so uncomfortable in her heart. She missed Big Brother Zhao's broad shoulders and warm embrace. Yes, when Wenhao carried her off the dance floor last night, she leaned into that embrace. In fact, she had been thinking about Xiao Qi in her heart. She felt that the embrace was as warm as Xiao Qi's embrace. Every time she was in the most difficult situation, when she needed someone to help her the most, Xiao Qi would appear. Unfortunately, that was only in the past. In the original plot world, Jiangyu, who had always been sheltered by Luoyu, used her whole life to love so many men, but after all, she never found Xiao Qi good. Now, Jiangyu, who had suffered continuous setbacks, suddenly realized that her feelings for Xiao Qi had long been different. If this is a rebirth script, then the female lead will definitely be reborn immediately, and then return to her youth to reunite with her childhood sweetheart. Chapter 151. At work time, the number of employees in and out of the company began to increase. In order to prevent Jiangyu from accidentally injuring others, Su Rui finally brought her to his office. Although this online game studio is not well known now, Su Rui has already contacted several multinational consortiums. Now he is only waiting for the game to be tested and officially launched at the International Online Games Summit after the new year. Sit down. Su Rui entered his office and habitually took off his suit and put it on his boss chair. When he turned around, he carelessly loosened the tie around his neck. Jiangyu has been paying attention to Su Rui's movements. She glimpsed the red dark mark half covered on his neckline. Jiangyu hurriedly lowered her eyes, but she still couldn't help but think of the scene of Su Rui kissing Su Wan in the corridor on the second floor that day. For a moment, Jiangyu's heart was a little sour. What's the matter? At this time, Su Rui was already sitting lazily in his chair. He lazily raised his eyelids and looked at Jiangyu indifferently. Brother Xiao, Jiangyu took a deep breath and wanted to tell him everything in one go, but the words seemed to have left her mouth. Brother Xiao, do you know about Su Wan and Luoyu? Su Rui raised his eyebrows. Why is this dialogue so familiar? By the way, it seems that the female lead in a certain world said this to him. Su Rui frowned and thought for a long time, and finally remembered that the female lead in a certain online game world said similar words to him. Birds of a feather flock together. It seems that there are a lot of commonalities between some female leads. Su Wan and Luoyu used to be a couple. Jiangyu sat on the sofa and said slowly, later, Luoyu and Su Wan broke up and began to pursue me. I really refused him at that time, but Su Wan always misunderstood me and thought that I stole his love, so you mean she was with me to retaliate against you? Su Rui leaned sideways, supporting the table with one hand, and meaningfully completed the half of Jiangyu's sentence that she did not finish. You know. Jiangyu heard Su Rui's words, but suddenly raised her eyes and looked at him blankly. No, my ass. Jiangyu, are you still asleep? Su Rui pointed at her eyes. Which eye of yours saw that Su Wan was with me to take revenge on you? Even if she really wants to retaliate against you, she should try her best to take Luoyu away from you. Why is she looking for me? I don't like you. Could it be that you like me? I don't, I'm not. Jiangyu's stuttering face immediately turned red. She didn't realize her feelings for Xiao Qi before. Jiangyu could face such words calmly, but now, when Jiangyu was in a daze, Su Rui had already stood up and walked slowly to the sofa where Jiangyu was sitting. Could it be that you really like me? Su Rui suddenly bent down, his hand supporting the back of the sofa, and his whole body almost stuck to Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu returned to her senses and looked at the man close at hand. She felt that she was surrounded by his breath. Jiang Yu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. At this moment, not only her face, but even her entire neck was red. Watching Su Rui's face getting closer, Jiang Yu's eyelashes trembled and she unconsciously closed her eyes. Heh. A cold laughter suddenly sounded in Jiang Yu's ears. You're so cheap, does Wen Wenhao know? Jiang Yu opened her eyes abruptly and met Su Rui's dark and indifferent eyes. You, Jiang Yu looked at Su Rui incredulously. Why does he know, Jiang Yu? I feel sick when I look at you, do you know that? Su Rui shook his head in disgust, and skillfully took out the brocade handkerchief he carried with him and wiped his hands. It was really distressing. He was so close just now, and now he felt uncomfortable all over his body. When Su Rui was distressed, Jiang Yu on the sofa was pale. Disgusting, Jiang Yu's tears finally burst out. Her big brother Xiao said she was disgusting. But what did she do wrong? Su Wan robbed her of her identity. Did she even care about a single cent? She gave in to her sister in every aspect and greeted her with a smile every day, but she refused to let her go. Now, Su Wan even robbed her big brother Xiao. Big brother Xiao, what's so good about Su Wan? She can satisfy you, I can too. Jiang Yu stood up in a trance and wanted to grab Su Rui's sleeves, but Su Rui shook her off. Get lost. The huge push made Jiang Yu stumble and fall to the ground. Her forehead hit the corner of the sofa, and blood flowed from her forehead, dyeing Jiang Yu's sight red. It hurts. Her body hurts, and her heart hurts. She can no longer find the big brother Xiao who cared for her so much. The man in front of her looked at her with only indifference and disgust. Xiao Qi, Jiang Yu called his name heartbreakingly, but the man in front of her didn't seem to see her wound or her blood. He just walked to the desk indifferently and pressed the company's internal line, call 2 security guards up. Immediately. Looking at Jiang Yu for one more second, Su Rui felt that he couldn't help but chop her up and feed her to the dog. When the company's security guards walked into the office, they saw the woman sitting on the ground with blood and tears on her face. What's going on? Take this crazy woman away, don't let her near our company in the future. Hearing Su Rui's cold command, the 2 security guards at the door immediately obediently stepped forward and pulled Jiang Yu up from the ground. At this time, Jiang Yu seemed to have lost her soul. She let the 2 people help her out of Su Rui's company. She leaned against the corner powerlessly and looked at the company's door plate in a trance. Su Chengwanyu. This was the name of Su Rui's studio. Su Chengwanyu, Su Wan. Su Wan. Hee. Jiang Yu's eyes gradually became cold. She felt that she was too weak and kind to let Su Wan be so insatiable. She must fight back. She wanted everyone to see how vicious Su Wan was. Chapter 152. Jiang Yu returned to the Su house on the last night of the holiday. When she returned home, Jiang Yu still looked the same as before. When she saw Su Wan, she would still take the initiative to greet her with a smile, but Su Wan was used to ignoring her. At the dinner table, Wen Shu's face was not very good. Su Haiqing gave her food with a worried face, but Wen Shu's eyes were constantly looking at Jiang Yu's body. After dinner, Wen Shu called Jiang Yu to her room alone, and soon there was a quarrel between the mother and daughter in the room. Su Haiqing had been reading the newspaper downstairs. When he heard the faint quarrel coming from upstairs, he frowned and immediately put down the newspaper and turned to go upstairs. Su Wan and Su Rui were lazily sitting on the sofa at this time. Today, there was Su Wan's favorite reality show, and the 2 were concentrating on watching it. As for the matter between Jiang Yu and Wen Shu, Su Wan felt that it was better not to intervene. And Su Rui, who was leaning on Su Wan, didn't care about it at all. When Su Haiqing arrived on the second floor, before he could open the door, he heard Jiang Yu's excited voice coming from the room. "Why are you prejudiced against me? I am your biological daughter. You are always on Su Wan's side, you have never regarded me as your daughter. Since you don't want me, I will not continue to stay here." Jiang Yu in the room seemed to be a little too excited. Su Haiqing could only hear her voice. When he was about to open the door was forcefully pulled open from the inside. Jiang Yu's eyes were red, and she seemed to be stunned when she saw Su Haiqing in front of her. The next second, she bit her lip and quickly ran past Su Haiqing. "Wen Shu, Xiaoyu, she," Su Haiqing's words were halfway through. When his eyes fell on Wen Shu's body, he saw her pale face and trembling body. Su Haiqing immediately panicked. He quickly came to the bedside and held Wen Shu's crumbling body with both hands. "Wen Shu, don't scare me. I'm fine, Brother Qing, I'm sorry. Wen Shu's eyes eagerly looked at Su Haiqing's face, and her eyes were full of guilt. If it weren't for her body being too weak, her and Brother Cheng's child would not have been taken away, and Jiang Yu would not have grown up like this. Wen Shu, who was born in a scholarly family, was actually a very traditional woman. The century-old Wen family had very strict family rules. Although the Wen family would not give girls some virginity, they had a set of methods that could be passed down for many years to verify whether a girl was still a virgin. On that day, Su Rui wanted to stay in the Su family and live with Wen Shu. Su Haiqing disagreed at first, but Wen Shu gently agreed to Su Rui's request. This was not because Su Rui saved her, but because she was grateful. On one hand, Wen Shu felt that Su Rui was very reliable. The main reason was that Wen Shu realized that although Su Rui and Su Wan had been living together, the two people actually did not have a substantial relationship. After all, Su Wan was only 17 years old. She was in her youth and Su Rui was also full of vigor. Although the two were a little intimate, they always guarded each other's line of defense. That was the respect for love. Wen Shu understood very well that a man will treat you like this if he really loves you and cherishes you. Therefore, she recognized this son-in-law. Wen Shu always knew that she would die soon. It turned out that she was most worried about Su Wan. She was afraid that her daughter, who was spoiled since childhood, would have a big temper and a strong personality. She would eventually encounter trouble in the future. Fortunately, there was a person who was worth entrusting to take care of her. Wen Shu felt that even if she left, she would not have any regrets. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yu, who had always been the most obedient and sensible in her eyes, would have such a thing happen. Wen Shu wanted to talk to Jiang Yu. She felt that she had not fulfilled her responsibilities as a mother. She spoiled Su Wan too much that she developed a big missy temper. Now, she wanted to talk to Jiang Yu. She didn't want her daughter, who she had finally found, to be cheated by a man outside. But what Wen Shu didn't expect was that she had just asked about the man, and Jiang Yu started to quarrel with her excitedly. "Why can Su Wan and I can't?" It turned out that Jiang Yu had always minded. She minded the existence of Su Wan, minded the person who took away her biological parents and her identity. Human nature is like this. When Su Wan was grumpily jealous and kept away from everyone with all irrational behavior, Jiang Yu stood at a high place and tried to save her with a compassionate attitude. People will involuntarily sympathize with the weak. Yes, no matter what Su Wan does, when she is abandoned by her lover and even hated by her relatives, she has become a failed weak person. For such as Su Wan, Jiang Yu can help her without scruples, and even accept her unreasonable behavior again and again. This will only show Jiang Yu's tolerance and magnanimity. But when everything changed direction. When Su Wan had her own love, when she had a man who regarded her as a treasure, when she could openly smile in front of everyone and say that she was just a country bumpkin, when no one looked down on her, she could still continue to live happily and confidently. At the same time, Jiangyu lost the people who loved her and the people she loved again and again. At this time, she could no longer smile and wish Su Wan well. She was jealous of everything Su Wan had. All of that, she felt that it should be her own. There is a Pandora's box in everyone's heart. Once opened, it will release the devil hidden in your heart. In the end, Jiang Yu stubbornly packed her luggage and left the Su family. In the cold night of D City, the sky was filled with snowflakes. Jiang Yu stood outside the Su family's villa and looked at the bright lights inside. She subconsciously grasped the mobile phone in her hand, and finally, she gritted her teeth and dialed the phone number. "Teacher Wen, this is Jiang Yu." Jiang Yu's departure also set off a lot of waves in the Su family. Su Wan also ran away from home before, but Su Haiqing had long understood her temper. He knew that the eldest miss couldn't stand the hardships. She would come back after a few days, but Jiang Yu was different. She was very independent and very stubborn. When she left, Wen Shu intended to stop her, but her body was too weak. Su Haiqing knew about Jiang Yu's matter, and he was still angry with his daughter. Seeing that his wife was so angry that she almost fainted, Su Haiqing simply stopped Wen Shu and did not let her chase after her. After such a thing, Jiang Yu should have grown up. People will experience a lot of setbacks in their lives. Su Haiqing has personally experienced a lot of storms and waves, and he also watched Su Wan go through setbacks again and again, changing from a bad-tempered eldest miss to such an obedient and sensible appearance. Perhaps it would be a good thing for Jiang Yu to suffer some setbacks outside. Outside the window, snowflakes fluttered. Su Wan stood in front of the window, and Su Rui behind her gently hugged her. The two watched through the transparent window as Wen Wenhao drove a black car to pick up Jiang Yu. For a man, what is too easy to get will never be cherished. Su Wan whispered. In fact, Wen Wenhao's identity was not low, and he was also a real playboy. In the original world, he was so obsessed with Jiang Yu. One reason was that the female lead was too attractive, and the other reason was that Jiang Yu was Luo Yu's woman. Conquering a woman who belongs to another powerful man in bed is a very fulfilling thing for Wen Wenhao. Just because you are XX's woman, I want to conquer you. Alright, this was no longer a novelty. And as the male lead of a world, Luo Yu's way of attracting hatred is really numbing. But now, Luo Yu has broken up with Jiang Yu, and Su Wan estimates that Wen Wenhao may not be as obsessed with Jiang Yu as in the original plot. Looks will eventually grow old, and the body will gradually decay. Two people who truly love each other, in fact, have always been in love with each other's souls. General Su looked at his wife tenderly and was about to ask for praise when he saw Su Wan curling her lips and seriously replied, "You are right, you will only love my soul in the future." Su Rui, wife, this script is wrong. Chapter 153. After Christmas, it was New Year's Day, and then it was the most important day of Feng Heng's semester, the final exam. This time's exam was not difficult for Su Wan, so she easily got into the top 3 of the class and successfully staged a last-place counterattack in front of everyone. This made the whole class's little friends dumbfounded. The homeroom teacher, Wen Wenhao, even specially looked for Su Wan to talk to him in his office. Su Wan really didn't have a good impression of this beast in human clothing, so she just hurriedly responded with a few words and escaped from the office. As soon as she went out, Su Wan saw Luo Yu waiting against the wall on the side of the corridor. "Are you okay?" Luo Yu looked at Su Wan with some worry. "What can happen to me?" Su Wan met Luo Yu's gaze and asked with some surprise. "Nothing." Luo Yu turned his gaze. At the ball that day, Others didn't know who Wen Wenhao left with, but Luo Yu knew. He recognized it was Jiang Yu at a glance, and then Jiang Yu moved out of the Su family and lived with Wen Wenhao. Although it was very secretive, in D City, there was no secret at all for Luo family. Luo Yu was surprised that Jiang Yu chose to be with Wen Wenhao, and he also felt discouraged. Now Jiang Yu no longer had the feeling that could make Luo Yu's heart move, and recently, Jiang Yu and Ouyang Luo were very close, which made Luo Yu a little concerned. He didn't know what Jiang Yu was thinking. Today, he accidentally saw Wen Wenhao enter the office with Su Wan, and Luo Yu followed them. He always felt that Wen Wenhao had bad intentions. "It's all school, I should go." Seeing that Luo Yu was stunned there and didn't speak, Su Wan couldn't help but say while leaving. "I'll send you. Uncle Lu will pick me up." Since Jiang Yu left the Su family, Uncle Lu has become Su Wan's full-time driver. "My car is downstairs, I'll take you to the school gate." Luo Yu smiled, and his face was so sincere that people couldn't bear to refuse. "Okay." Su Wan nodded. This ex-boyfriend, now it seems that he is not so annoying. The two people talked in a low voice as they walked, completely unaware that a slender figure had been following them, quietly holding a mobile phone and constantly taking photos. D. As soon as Su Wan got into Luo Yu's car, she received a message on her mobile phone. Seeing the content, Su Wan's face turned cold and her eyes swept over the rearview mirror of the car. "What's wrong?" Feeling that Su Wan's expression had changed, Luo Yu couldn't help but look at her and ask. "It's nothing." Su Wan smiled and looked down at her mobile phone. Looking at it, she suddenly turned to look at Luo Yu's face and said with a chuckle, "Luo Yu, I saw you in the auditorium on the night of the carnival, but you seemed to be holding a girl at the time. I didn't dare to disturb you." "Ball, girl," Luo Yu's hand holding the steering wheel tightened slightly. "You saw it, that." Suddenly, Luo Yu didn't know what to say. The girl in the mask gave him a particularly familiar feeling, but he just couldn't guess who she was. That day, she just accidentally fell into his arms. The two people only said one sentence, and when they separated, the girl suddenly turned around and hugged him and kissed his lips. This was the first time Luo Yu had been kissed by someone, but the girl's kiss was particularly gentle, with a deep affection kiss, which made Luo Yu's heart soften. Unfortunately, she quickly disappeared into the crowd. Later, Luo Yu looked all over the venue and never saw the familiar figure again. "Who is she? Is it Cinderella?" "I don't know that girl, but I think she is very familiar." Luo Yu smiled with some loss. "She is like Cinderella in the fairy tale. When the magic disappeared, her whole person disappeared from the ball, and I can no longer find her figure. She is not Cinderella, she is Cinderella's sister." Creak. Hearing Su Wan's words, Luo Yu slammed on the brakes. "Do you know who she is?" "Oh." Su Wan blinked a little slyly. "Maybe it's me." "Ah." Luo Yu's eyes flashed. "Don't joke, it's not you, I know. The feeling she gives me. Anyway, it's not you." "Well, it's not me, but I really know who she is. And, if you want to see her, I can help." "Really?" Facing Su Wan's smiling face, Luo Yu's expression looked particularly excited. "Su Wan, are you really willing to help me?" "It depends on your performance." Su Wan subconsciously glanced at the rearview mirror again. "Drive quickly. What are you in a hurry for? Good food is not afraid of late." Top student Luo. After breaking up with Luo Yu, Su Wan did not go directly back to Su's house. She told Uncle Lu to drive the car to a coffee shop not far from the school. She found a quiet seat and directly opened her mobile phone to send a message. Not long after, a familiar figure walked into the coffee shop. Seeing Su Wan's figure, the person quickly walked to her table and slowly sat opposite Su Wan. "You're here." Su Wan looked at Su Nuo, who was a little out of breath, and couldn't help but curve her lips. I ordered a cup of Blue Mountain for you. Luo Yu likes it, you should like it too, right? Su Nuo's face was embarrassed. Although there were thick glasses covering it, Su Wan still saw the embarrassment in Su Nuo's eyes. Today's matter. Su Wan thought about it and was about to change the topic. Su Nuo on the side immediately waved her hands nervously. I didn't follow you, I really didn't follow you. Oh. Su Wan looked at Su Nuo's nervous face and couldn't help but think of the day when she entered the mission. The first person she saw was also Su Nuo. Her sense of existence in the class was very low, but in fact, Su Nuo was a very beautiful girl. She was just not good at dressing up and not good at expressing herself. The text message that Su Wan just received in Luo Yu's car was sent to her by Su Nuo, and the content of the text message was about Jiang Yu. During this period, Jiang Yu has been quiet a lot. Seeing that after the exam, it will be a holiday for the new year. Su Wan didn't care too much about Jiang Yu's existence. She didn't expect that she had been deliberately thinking about exposing herself. Being a female lead like this is really hard. I know you accidentally found out that Jiang Yu was following me, Su Nuo, thank you. Su Wan's words made Su Nuo, who had been nervous, finally feel at ease. After impulsively kissing Luo Yu at the dance that day, Su Nuo was dumbfounded. Okay? She felt that she had no face to see people, but fortunately, no one knew that she did it. Therefore, Su Nuo decided to play dead to the end. She couldn't let Luo Yu find out that she was the guy who did the bad thing. So during this time, Su Nuo had been avoiding Luo Yu, and when she saw Luo Yu and Su Wan together after school today, she reflexively hid to the side. As a result, Su Nuo accidentally discovered that Jiang Yu was secretly following behind the two people. Su Nuo felt that Jiang Yu's eyes staring at the two people were a little scary. She thought about it and finally sent a message to Su Wan. I think Jiang Yu has become very strange recently. Su Nuo deliberated for a moment and looked up at Su Wan seriously. Su Wan, you have to be careful. She is so skilled, in case she wants to harm you. Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. In fact, Su Wan also understood Jiang Yu's thoughts a little bit. She deliberately followed her and Luo Yu, in order to grasp the evidence of her cheating, and then show it to Brother Xiao. Since she is so thoughtful, she will definitely fulfill her wish. The winter vacation began, and Su Wan was finally liberated. At this time, the International Online Games Summit was about to be held in M country. Su Rui wanted to take Su Wan to participate, but Su Wan let Su Rui leave with the team alone. After sending Su Rui away at the airport, Su Wan immediately made an appointment with Luo Yu to meet at a Western restaurant in the city center. If you want to know who the girl at the dance is, then you have to do me a favor. Su Wan went straight to the point and put forward her conditions to Luo Yu. Hearing her words, Luo Yu's eyes condensed. Why do I feel like I've boarded a pirate ship? What do you want me to do for you? Do you know the Whisper Club under the name of the Ouyang family? Whisper Club, a very high-end private club in the suburbs of D City. It is the property of Ouyang Luo's father. It is the most famous and luxurious place to spend money in D City. I know Whisper, are you and Xiaoqi interested in that place? At first, Luo Yu was a little concerned about Su Wan and Xiaoqi being together. At that time, he also suspected that Su Wan had contact with Xiaoqi before breaking up with him, but later Luo Yu sent someone to investigate and found out that Xiaoqi really came to D City for the first time. That day at the school gate, he did meet Su Wan for the first time, and the person who had a deep relationship with Xiaoqi before that was Jiang Yu. A lot of things have happened recently, and Luo Yu's state of mind is slowly growing. The Luo family has always been well informed, and now Luo Yu has long known that Xiaoqi is not the same as before. The poor boy that day is now the hottest genius star in the country. Just whisper, how to say it. As long as you have money and power, you can book your own private room in Whisper. In that private room, you can choose to do whatever you want with your lover unscrupulously. Uniforms, whips, handcuffs, candles, everything is there. Of course, if you are alone, you can also spend money to enjoy the stars, services specially provided by Whisper, in a private place, take off the disguise, and have an unscrupulous sex. Safe, exciting, and will never be discovered by others. Luxurious rooms, complete props, and absolute security and confidentiality, this is the most attractive part of Whisper. Hearing Su Wan ask about Whisper, Luo Yu's first thought was, full and warm thoughts. Are Xiao Qi and Su Wan going to Whisper to indulge? As a result, when she heard Luo Yu's rhetorical question, Su Wan just smiled mysteriously. It's not Xiao Qi who is going to Whisper, it's you. Luo Yu. Chapter 154. Whisper Club. This high-class clubhouse, which was famous far and wide in D City, was located next to a beautiful forest park in the suburbs. Jiang Yu came to the door of Whisper Club and looked at the door of the club that seemed very low-key in the cold night. She hesitated, and finally got out of the car quickly, then took out the VIP card that Ouyang Luo gave her and directly entered the door unimpeded. As soon as you enter the door, the splendor in front of you will make you feel like you have come to another world. In the resplendent and luxurious hall, countless beautiful women in bikinis smiled and passed by with high-grade red wine. They were just the most ordinary waiters in Whisper Club, but each of them had a body comparable to that of a famous model. Jiang Yu was naturally a little reserved when she saw this scene for the first time. She immediately called Ouyang Luo. Not long after, young Master Ouyang, who was dressed extremely showily, personally went downstairs and pulled Jiang Yu to the 4th floor of the club. In Whisper Club, from the 3rd floor onwards, it was a private room belonging to VIP guests. Ouyang Luo took Jiang Yu into 4007. As soon as she entered the door, Jiang Yu's face changed. Hello, sister-in-law. The spacious and elegant room was full of young people of 17 or 18 years old. Most of these people were Feng Heng students and also young Master Ouyang's younger brother. When they saw Jiang Yu enter the door, everyone immediately shouted in unison. Ouyang Luo, this. Jiang Yu didn't know in advance that Ouyang Luo would call so many people over. After all, peeping on others was not a noble thing. Jiang Yu also repeatedly convinced herself that it was for the good of Brother Xiao, so she would do this kind of thing. However, how could Ouyang Luo think so? Ever since he learned from Jiang Yu that Luo Yu was going to whisper to Su Wan about having an affair, Ouyang Luo was inexplicably excited. He finally caught the opportunity to embarrass Su Wan. Wouldn't it be a pity if he didn't call some of his friends to come and watch such a good opportunity? So after confirming that Luo Yu had settled on 4008, Ouyang Luo immediately ordered people to clean up 4007 and called his friends to come and watch the show together. Xiao Yu, don't take their words to heart. Seeing that Jiang Yu seemed to be frightened by the word sister-in-law, Ouyang Luo immediately comforted her in a low voice. Come, you sit here, I have already arranged this private room. Ouyang Luo picked up the remote control and turned on the giant LED display on the wall of the room. In every private room of Whisper, there would be a big screen like this. Under normal circumstances, this big screen would broadcast the scene in your own room at the same time. Well, the meaning of this could only be understood, but not expressed in words. However, in Ouyang Luo's room, when he turned on the big screen, it showed another empty private room. That's right, their screen was connected to 4008's video feed next door. Ouyang Luo had used his power as the young master to order someone to secretly transfer the feed. At this time, Jiang Yu's gaze also fell on the screen, and she involuntarily followed Ouyang Luo's footsteps to the big sofa in the middle of the room and sat down. At this time, there was no one in 4008. Jiang Yu looked at the time, and there were still 5 minutes to 8 p.m. She had been monitoring and tracking Su Wan during this time. Seeing that Brother Xiao went abroad, Su Wan couldn't wait to contact Luo Yu, which made Jiang Yu very angry. In order to grasp the evidence of Su Wan's infidelity as soon as possible, she directly spent money to find someone to install a bug on Su Wan's mobile phone. Because of this, she was able to eavesdrop on Luo Yu's call to meet Su Wan at Whisper 4008 at 8 p.m. tonight. At first, Jiang Yu didn't know where Whisper was. Later, she asked Ouyang Luo and learned that this place turned out to be a place for that kind of thing, which made Jiang Yu start to despise Su Wan. What a shameless woman, Brother Xiao just went abroad, and she couldn't wait to get together with her adulterer. This time, I must make her look good. Click. At 8:00, Luo Yu's figure appeared on time in room 4008. Jiang Yu's eyes were fixed on Luo Yu on the screen, and the other people who were called by Ouyang Luo didn't know what kind of drama they were going to watch at first. Now that Luo Yu's figure appeared on the screen, everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Fortunately, the soundproofing effect of this room was very strong, so they didn't have to worry about being heard by Luo Yu. Former lovers, now meeting again through the video, Jiang Yu's mood was a little mixed. Perhaps, Luo Yu was also deceived by Su Wan. As Jiang Yu was thinking, she saw that Luo Yu had taken off his coat and was sitting on the sofa in room 4008. There was also a big screen opposite his sofa. Luo Yu seemed to look at the big screen curiously, and then took out his mobile phone and started to make a call. Su Wan, I'm here. Where are you? In room 4007, when they heard Luo Yu say Su Wan's name, all the teenagers in the room were excited. Your mother. Are they going to watch top student Luo and school bell Su pa. So excited. Well, if top student Luo finds out, will he be silenced? Who cares so much? Just when a group of people couldn't help but have their faces rippling with YY, Luo Yu continued to make phone calls. Not knowing what Su Wan said on the phone, Luo Yu seemed to frown slightly. He held the phone in one hand and fumbled on the sofa with the other hand. After a while, he found a small remote control. I found it, do you want to turn it on? While speaking, Luo Yu pressed the on key of the remote control without thinking, and then a scene that made him stunned immediately appeared on the whole big screen. In the picture were two entangled bodies. Is it cool? The man panted heavily as he continued to exercise and spew obscenities. The woman beneath him could only pant and breathe comfortably. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with seductive charm. Translator, Henny Translations Editor, Henny Translations. Yes, this is the HD version of when Qianshou and Jiang Yu's little angel's bed exercise. Luo Yu, what did I see? Please wash my eyes. When Luo Yu was stunned, room 4007 next door also watched this scene at close range. All the men. Is there a nosebleed? Ouyang Luo was also dumbfounded. He opened his mouth and stared dumbfoundedly at the kind and pure person in his mind who was like a slut under Wen Wenhao's body, panting, and repeatedly. This is not true, not true. A certain teenager seemed to hear the sound of his glass heart being crushed into pieces. Don't look, don't look. Jiang Yu, who finally reacted, frantically grabbed the remote control in Ouyang Luo's hand, but the small remote control seemed to have suddenly failed. No matter how she pressed it, it couldn't be turned off. Jiang Yu excitedly ran to the screen and wanted to cover the scene inside with her body, but how could her slender body be covered? Moreover, seeing her chest moving up and down excitedly in front of the screen, most of the teenagers in the room subconsciously swallowed their saliva. Your mother, it's really the same as in the video, it looks so big, get out. In the end, Ouyang Luo roared angrily, and everyone reluctantly left. At this time, only Ouyang Luo and Jiang Yu were left in the room, and the voice that made people blush and their heartbeat kept ringing in his ears. Jiang Yu. Ouyang Luo bent down and looked at Jiang Yu, who was squatting on the ground and crying weakly, "Look at me." As soon as he raised his hand, he grabbed Jiang Yu's hair and did not force her to look at him. "Tell me why did you betray me?" Obviously, in the world of a certain Chinibyu, since Jiang Yu and Luo Yu broke up, she has been very close to him. Jiang Yu did not refuse his advances, and even several times Ouyang Luo couldn't help hugging Jiang Yu and holding her little hand. Jiang Yu did not refuse these. Therefore, Ouyang Luo always thought that he was already Jiang Yu's little angel's boyfriend. But just now, in front of his own group of younger brothers, he was put on an upgraded version of the universe's invincible green hat. Ouyang Luo, you. Seeing Ouyang Luo's eyes gradually become cold and strange, Jiang Yu's heart panicked and couldn't help but struggle. Is Teacher Wen very brave? Can he satisfy you that I can't? Ouyang Luo saw Jiang Yu struggling in front of him, and he couldn't help but sink his face. He leaned down and was about to kiss Jiang Yu's face. At this time, Jiang Yu, who was panicking, finally played the advantage of her martial arts master. With a set of combined punches, she knocked Ouyang Luo to the ground. Oh, he. Ouyang Luo fell to the ground, raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his lips, endured the pain in his body and chest, and looked at Jiang Yu coldly. Do you think I want to touch you? Why are you pretending to be a chaste woman in front of me? Wenhao is a frequent visitor of Whisper. The number of women he has slept with is not less than 1,000. Do you think I, Ouyang Luo, will care about his used shoes? Standing up shakily, Ouyang Luo gave Jiang Yu a somewhat hideous smile. In the future, don't let me see you again in Fengheng, otherwise. Ouyang Luo's words were not finished, but the meaning of his words was already very obvious. Bang! Fiercely kicking open the door of 4007, Ouyang Luo just saw Luo Yu, who just came out of 4008 when he went out. The two men looked at each other and saw Ouyang Luo's somewhat embarrassed appearance. Luo Yu lowered his eyes and turned away without saying a word. Needless to say, he probably guessed what happened to Ouyang Luo. Chapter 155. After Jiang Yu came out of the Whisper, she almost rushed back to the Su family to find Su Wan to settle accounts, but the servant of the Su family told her that Su Wan had already flown abroad. Jiang Yu, who finally realized that she had been schemed against by Su Wan from beginning to end, fell to the ground in a daze. She felt that she was finished, and her life was finished. Being seen by so many people about her and Wenhao, and at the same time being warned and threatened by Ouyang Luo, she knew that she could not stay in Fengheng anymore. Even in the entire D city, she had become a joke. The next day, the video of Jiang Yu and Wenhao had begun to circulate widely in the circle of D city, and even Su Haiqing got a copy. For this kind of immoral thing, as a father, he felt ashamed, and at the same time, he was naturally heartbroken. When Su Wan accompanied Su Rui to return triumphantly abroad, the matter of Jiang Yu and Wenhao was still circulating in the upper-class circle of the entire D city. So what if she's a real daughter? She still did some shameful things. The so-called people's words are fearful. Jiang Yu, who came from a mountain village, saw the face of the so-called upper-class people for the first time. When they hold you up, you will sit on the clouds, but when they step on you, you will go deep into the mud and can't defend yourself at all. At this time, Jiang Yu understood the meaning of home. With Wen Shu accompanying her day and night, Jiang Yu's mood finally stabilized. And the return of Su Wan and Su Rui became the fuse of Jiang Yu's rampage. Su Wan, it's you. You did it all. Why do you want to harm me like this? How can you be so vicious? After many days, Jiang Yu's face was haggard and her eyes were in a trance. At the moment when she saw Su Wan enter the door, Jiang Yu's eyes suddenly flashed with coldness. She quickly rushed towards Su Wan and raised her hand to slap Su Wan. No one in the hall had time to stop Jiang Yu, but there was a person behind Su Wan who was faster than Jiang Yu. Paw! A loud slap hit Jiang Yu's face. She froze in place and stared at the man in front of her. Shao, Jiang Yu, everything is your own fault. Su Rui interrupted Jiang Yu's words. He and Su Wan really didn't intend to release that video, but Jiang Yu has been following Su Wan relentlessly, and even installed a bug in her mobile phone, which has touched Su Wan's bottom line. As the saying goes, if you don't do it, you won't die, Jiang Yu will die. Jiang Yu didn't do it, didn't kill yourself. Su Wan took a step forward and looked at the wronged and stubborn Jiang Yu in front of her. Did I tell you to go to bed with Wenhao? Did I force you and Ouyang Luo? Or did I force you to follow me and Luo Wan? Since you like to peep at other people's privacy so much, I'll let you have a good time this time. I'll let everyone in the city see how beautiful and alluring you are. You don't have to thank me. Who asked you to be my good sister? One, I, one, you, Su you, I, you, I, you, one, I, you, I one, I. Su Wan, you. Jiang Yu was stimulated by Su Wan's words. She was so excited that she wanted to make a move again, but the corner of her eyes caught Su Rui's indifferent eyes. Jiang Yu's movements slowed down again. Brother Shao, can you turn a blind eye to what she did? I followed her, but I was not as vicious as her to release other people's private videos. Oh. Hearing that Jiang Yu still felt that she was not wrong and everything was Su Wan's fault, General Su could only laugh. I have heard an old saying that only state officials are allowed to set fires, but ordinary people are not allowed to light lamps. Jiang Yu, since you can follow and eavesdrop on Su Wan, why can't Su Wan fight back? And the so-called video, if you didn't do it yourself, can she still wrongly accuse you? If you want, you can also release the video. Oh, yes. I almost forgot, my wife is not like some people who will casually go to bed with other men. If you want this video, you have to wait until we get married to disturb the bridal chamber. Of course, I will not give you this opportunity. With that, Su Rui impatiently raised his hand and pushed Jiang Yu aside. He turned his head and looked at Su Wan tenderly. Wife, ignore her. She is sick in the head. Are you tired after sitting on the plane for so long? I will help you prepare the bath water. Let's take a good bath. Under Jiang Yu's gaze that wanted to eat people, General Su still pulled his wife upstairs with a gentle face and went to warm her up. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Jiang Yu subconsciously gritted her teeth, and her pretty face was involuntarily distorted. Shao Yu, your sister is at fault in this matter, but you are also. Hey! Such a big thing happened in the family, your mother and I are also responsible. Su Haiqing, who had been silent, couldn't bear to see his good family break up like this. He couldn't help but whisper a few words of comfort. Hearing his words, Jiang Yu just sneered in her heart, Su family. When Su Wan didn't come back, she still felt that her parents were her safe haven, but now Su Wan is back, and the culprit who harmed her is in front of her, but Su Haiqing and his wife are indifferent to Su Wan's crime. This kind of parents was really disappointing. I'm tired, I'll go upstairs first. Jiang Yu loosened her clenched fists, turned and slowly walked upstairs. After returning to her room, Jiang Yu's eyes flashed with madness. She took out her mobile phone and quickly dialed Wenhao's number. What's the matter? Since that incident was exposed, Wenhao's life in Fengheng has not been easy. Who let Fengheng be the territory of the Ouyang family? Although the Wen family is also a big family, the Wen family is not a local family. Distant water cannot quench immediate thirst. Fortunately, Wenhao is very good at conducting himself and doing things. During this period, he has no longer contacted Jiangyu, and also personally went to the Ouyang family to visit Ouyang Luo's grandfather. There was no conflict of interest between the two sides. It was just some trivial matters of love affairs. Wenhao's tone was very cold when he suddenly received a call from Jiangyu today. He has had countless women over the years. Although Jiangyu is one of the best, and her flexible body does make him exceptionally obsessed, she has now successfully offended the two largest local families, the Ouyang family and the Luo family. Under such circumstances, as long as Wenhao still has a little bit of IQ, he should completely draw a line with Jiangyu. On the other end of the phone, Jiangyu also felt Wenhao's indifference, but she didn't care anymore. She didn't really like Wenhao. I have something I want to ask you for help with. I'm afraid I can't help you. Wenhao refused very simply, and he didn't even want to know what Jiangyu wanted him to do for her. What do you think of Su Wan's figure? Jiangyu suddenly tempted in a low voice on the phone. My sister is liked by a lot of people. Su Wan. Wenhao did not hang up the phone immediately, and Su Wan's beautiful but excessively indifferent face immediately appeared in his mind. Those who can be selected as the school flower are naturally beautiful and aloof. For such a beauty, Wenhao generally has no resistance. If you like it, I will help you arrange it. Jiangyu's tone was very low and very firm. Why? Wenhao, who was already somewhat moved, couldn't help but ask, just because of the video, are you going to retaliate against her? She did it first, I will do it back. She wants to ruin my reputation, I will also ruin her reputation. Feeling the fierceness in Jiangyu's tone, Wenhao suddenly shivered. Sure enough, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. The most dangerous thing in this world is a woman. However, in front of a beauty, the opportunity to kiss the school flower is in front of him. How can Wenhao let it go? Well, for the sake of our past relationship, I will help you get revenge. Chapter 156. The Spring Festival was supposed to be a day of family reunion and joy, but the Su family had such a big incident. Even during the Spring Festival, there was not much joy in the villa. Jiangyu, who had been locked in the room, suddenly cried and apologized to Wenshu when the New Year's bell rang at midnight, and then said with tears that she must let go of the past and start a new life in the future. At the same time, she also hoped that she and her younger sister could abandon their past grievances and be a pair of loving sisters. If it was the former Jiangyu, Su Wan would reluctantly believe that her words were somewhat sincere. As for now, who would believe that she wanted to bury the hatchet with herself. However, looking at the female lead's hard-working performance, and her eyes were swollen from crying, Su Wan could only reluctantly pretend that she didn't notice her full of malice after the Spring Festival. School would start soon. Su Wan had nothing to prepare, and because Lingshan was already preparing to be fully launched, Su Wan's pace of life had become very fast. Because he often had to work overtime, Su Wan's figure was rarely seen in the Su family. In the blink of an eye, it was the Lantern Festival. Jiangyu took the initiative to ask Su Wan out for the first time after the new year. Xiao Wan, tonight, Chaos in the Imperial Capital will premiere at 10 o'clock. Brother Xiao is not here. Let's go to the premiere together. Chaos in the Imperial Capital is the movie in which Xiao Yuni participated. The so-called fate, some can be changed, but some seem to be destined. Without Su Wan's reminder and obstruction, Xiao Yuni finally participated in the movie, and like the original plot that Su Wan knew, he played the third male lead, the sixth prince. Su Wan was actually very interested in this movie. Seeing Jiangyu looking at herself expectantly, Soo-won couldn't help but smile meaningfully. Okay, I was going to support Yuni today. Seeing that Soo-won agreed so easily, Jiang-yu's eyes flashed with joy. Okay, then let's do it. After leaving Soo-won's room, Jiang-yu proudly raised her lips and sent a message to Wen Wenhao again. At 10:00 tonight, wait for my news. At 6:00 in the evening, after dinner, Jiang-yu dressed herself up and sat on the sofa, staring absent-mindedly at the European-style clock on the wall. Thinking that she could immediately ruin Soo-won's reputation, Jiang-yu felt that all the cells in her body were boiling. Unfortunately, at this time, she felt that time was passing too slowly. DD. A text message suddenly popped up on Jiang-yu's mobile phone page. At first, Jiang-yu just glanced at it casually. During the festival, the general text messages were blessings, and it was the promotional information of the business. When Jiang-yu saw Wen Wenhao's name on it, she was stunned for a moment, and immediately walked to the bathroom on the first floor while everyone was not paying attention. Wen Wenhao's text message was very short. He said that he had an urgent matter to talk to Jiang-yu first. He also attached an address. Jiang-yu knew that it was the address of Wen Wenhao's private villa. She had been there twice before. Seeing that his revenge plan was about to be realized, could it be that Wen Wenhao was going to go back on his word? Or is he planning to get some benefits from me first? Jiang-yu's eyes flickered. She knew that Wen Wenhao's villa was not too far from the Su family. If she goes now, she should be able to return before 9:00. If Wen Wenhao had any ill intentions, Jiang-yu clenched her fists. She is no longer her former self, and she will never be bullied again. Seeing Jiang-yu rushing out of the door, Soo-won didn't care. She continued to watch TV and text Su-rue. General Su, did the crazy woman go out? Soo-won, and what did you do again? General Su, Secret Soo-won, do you want to watch a movie together tonight? General Su, Yuni gave me 2 VIP tickets. I will wait for you at 10:00. Soo-won, okay. After chatting with Su-rue, Soo-won remembered the 2 movie tickets that Jiang-yu gave her during the day. She couldn't help but send a message to Luo-yu. Do you want to watch Chaos in the Imperial Capital? Go to the cinema on the 5th floor of Xintiandi at 10:00 tonight. Cinderella's sister has the tickets in her hands. After sending the message, Soo-won called Su-nuo again and asked her to meet at the entrance of the cinema at 9:40 p.m. After doing all this, Soo-won comfortably stretched her waist. In fact, the fate between people is really strange. Just like Su-nuo has been silently in love with Luo-yu. And Luo-yu can't forget the sister of Cinderella at the ball. Are they really in love with each other? Unrequited love is like a dream that you can't wake up from. You would rather be intoxicated in it and don't know what time it is, but one day, this dream is forcibly interrupted. When you return from the dream to reality, when you really touch the person you have been secretly in love with for a long time, you approach him and understand him, will he still be the same as in your dream? What makes you fall in love at first sight is always the appearance. And what makes you never forget is always the feeling of that moment. Soo-won has no intention to help them. She can only let Su-nuo and Luo-yu not be missed by each other. As for whether they are suitable or not, it is also their feelings and their lives. Soo-won has never been so concerned about other people's affairs. This time, she just returned the favor she owed Su-nuo and Luo-yu. When Soo-won was done with everything, Jiang-yu, who hurried out, had already taken a car to the door of Wen Wenhao's house. Looking at the brightly lit villa hall, Jiang-yu took a deep breath, then walked to the door and rang the doorbell. No one responded in the villa. Jiang-yu waited for a while and couldn't help but call Wen Wenhao's phone, but no one answered his phone. Jiang-yu hesitated and slammed the door of the villa. As a result, the door of the villa was slammed open by her at this time. The door is not locked. In such a strange situation, normal people should hesitate whether to call the police or simply turn around and leave, right? But our family's Jiangyu, as a female lead, how could she turn around and leave? The first rule of the female lead: if there are difficulties, you must go up. If there are no difficulties, you must create difficulties and go up unswervingly. Jiang Yu only hesitated for a second and strode into the villa. The lights in the villa were on, but the living room was empty. From the second floor of the villa, there was a faint smell of blood. Jiang Yu's face changed and she quickly went upstairs. The smell of blood came from a room on the second floor, and Jiang Yu recognized that the room was Wen Wenhao's bedroom. Did something happen to him? Jiang Yu anxiously pushed open the door and rushed in without any vigilance. Just as she rushed in, suddenly someone reached out from behind and covered her mouth and nose, accompanied by a special smell. Jiang Yu only felt that her eyes were blurred. Before losing consciousness, she struggled to see Wen Wenhao's distorted face behind her. At 10:00 in the evening, the movie Chaos in the Imperial Capital was released on time. The cinema was dark and full of people who came to watch the premiere. Su Wan and Su Rui sat in the comfortable VIP lounge and watched Xiao Yunyi's famous work carefully. When the movie ended and came out of the screening hall, Su Wan found that there were really many female audiences who cried with red eyes. "Hey, isn't that Luo Yu?" When Su Rui came out, he saw his acquaintance in the crowd at a glance. "Is it Su Nuo who is with him?" Su Rui was not familiar with Su Nuo, but Su Wan once told him about Su Nuo and Luo Yu, so Su Rui felt that the person around Luo Yu must be Su Nuo. At this time, Su Nuo also seemed to be moved by the plot of the movie. He took off his glasses and turned to secretly wipe his tears. "Well, I asked them to come. Jiang Yu's 2 tickets should not be wasted." Hearing Su Rui's question, Su Wan also directly told him about the 2 people she invited to watch the movie. She believed that if Luo Yu really couldn't forget Cinderella's sister, he would definitely find that familiar figure in the crowd. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui smiled and put his arm around her shoulder. "When did my wife become a matchmaker?" "Su Xiaowan, have you forgotten that you are a destroyer and have the task of tearing apart the CP?" Glancing at Su Rui's teasing eyes, Su Wan looked at Su Nuo and Luo Yu in the crowd with a slightly meaningful look. Some people are only suitable to stay in the heart, and some people are only suitable to be remembered. Sometimes people who seem to be compatible in all aspects may not necessarily be able to last forever. In fact, I am not optimistic about them. Few people in this world will only fall in love with one person in their life. When you want to love, don't hesitate to love with all your might. In the end, even if you are not suitable, even if you have to separate, at least you have loved without regrets. Su Wan has loved, hated, deeply despaired and confused. Fortunately, she met Su Rui. If you also meet such a person, hesitation is bound to lose the other party.